I'd like to call to order the September 16th, 2024 Board of Ed regular education meeting. Can we all stand, please, for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Could we all remain standing and take a few minutes to remember the victims of 9/11, remember the victims and their families. Thank you. All right. The first item on the agenda, item 3 is recognition. 3A is 2024-2025 Teacher of the Year.
Okay, so I want to begin by welcoming Dan Zatoon, who's here at the table. Dan is our new interim Assistant Superintendent of Finance and Operations. He has only been here for a few short weeks, but we've kept him very busy. His leadership, hard work, strong work ethic, and diligence have really made a positive impact throughout our school district, so I want to welcome Dan. So I have the pleasure of calling up Tim Barron to the podium. Tim Barron is an exemplary computer science, robotics, and STEM educator and leader here at FHS. He is dedicated to expanding pathways to promote science and technology at FHS and as students think about college and careers beyond their time here. His influence is vast as he, along with his students, promote access to computer science, robotics, and STEM for all Farmington students, beginning at a very young age through outreach and programming. As a result of Tim's leadership, FHS has been proud to have the most students honored in Connecticut for the 11th time by NCWIT through the Award for Aspirations in Computing Recognition. Although this is just really one example of the many awards and accolades that Tim Barron and his students have received over many years, it is a reflection of his deep belief in all students and his commitment to fully preparing them to make a positive and lasting impact on our local and world communities now and in the future. He generously dedicates his time beyond the school day and on the weekends to the robotics program, and his collaborative work has resulted, as I said, in numerous state and national awards and achievements at the individual, team, and school levels. Tim is very humble, and he's a selfless educator. I know it's hard for him to be up in front of all of you right now. He is quick to give praise and credit to others, and he models the attributes of a true Farmington educator, one who puts students first, is a learner and a relationship builder at his core, and places teamwork and innovative improvement at the forefront of his daily work in partnership with his students and colleagues. I am so pleased and so proud to celebrate Tim Barron, our 2025 Teacher of the Year, who is most deserving of this recognition.
Thanks, Dr. Greeter. I want to express how thankful and honored I am to be Farmington's Teacher of the Year. Well, as Kathy said, the attention is taking a little getting used to for me. I am very proud and thankful to represent all of the dedicated and talented colleagues that I get to work with every day. I definitely mean this. That in my view, this is a we award, not a me award. I have in that vein, I want to start with some thank yous. I want to thank Dr. Greeter and the rest of the committee that reviews the many worthy nominations. And I also want to thank Kathy for her thoughtful clues that were part of the reveal at the convocation. They definitely made it exciting for everybody, and they almost made me cry. They probably would have if I wasn't trying very hard not to give anything away. I want to thank FHS principal, my principal, Russ Christ, for all his support he gave me since I was told in May, and especially support through the preparing for the state process. It was really I really appreciated having Russ to lean on during that, and thank you very much for that. I also want to thank our FHS science department head, Jackie Patton. Jackie compiled all the information and that went into the application for the Farmington Teacher of the Year, which she showed me recently, and that did make me cry. In a good way, and I really appreciate all the effort that went into that. Really, the other part of things is really just what in my view is some special things about having the privilege of working in Farmington for all this time. I want to thank our board and our administration for always being willing to support teachers in taking risks and trying innovative ideas. Farmington's always been a leader in teaming, and even though for many years I was a singleton teacher teaching computer science, I always felt connected to my colleagues, to my faculty, and to the science department. And I thought I'd give a couple of examples of how Farmington supports innovative initiatives that teachers have. Really early on in my career, back in 2003, I was allowed to co-teach an independent study in web design with art teacher Jeff Brewster. And Jeff was a master at creating engaging projects for students kind of basically out of thin air. And I feel very proud that one of the things that I'm happy about my teaching is that I incorporate lots of project-based learning in it, and I think that really started with that experience. Another example is in around 2008, I had started teaching the Introduction to Computer Science class, and I wanted to make some changes to it. I felt like there wasn't. I felt like it was a very traditional course, and it wasn't casting a wide enough net to appeal to students. So I did some work, and I went to some workshops at Carnegie Mellon University and University of Virginia on research that was being done on improving appealing computer science to girls and to marginalized students. And I came back with a much better understanding of that challenge, and I wanted to make some changes to the course, some pretty radical changes, including changing it from a year-long course to a half-a-year course, which that and changing the approach of it to be sort of less of a focus on techie things and more of a focus on thinking things. And those looking back, those changes have made a big difference. I mean, many more students were able to start taking the course when it was a half-year course, and I feel like that effect has kind of trickled down. And now I'm proud to say that we have 8 different computer science courses with 3 other teachers besides myself teaching them, and also 2 choices in capstone in computer science for students. So I don't think that would have happened if those changes weren't made kind of the way they were. When a teacher has an innovative idea in Farmington, and it's something that they make a strong argument for students that it'll benefit students, we're supported in trying it out pretty much right away. not in phasing over a very long time, and that makes a big difference. Other things that I'm proud of are has come out of the work with Jackie Patton, and that's that we have a new computer science pathway, and one of the new courses in there is cybersecurity that I'm teaching this year, and you'll be hearing more about that, I suspect, this year, that pathway. I wanted to kind of end with expressing my gratitude to our students. Well, as I've explained, I definitely have put work into expanding computer science and making it more appealing to all students. It's really our students in Farmington that have a kind of relentless passion for subjects in STEM and for the challenge that brings. And I'll give you a last quick example. So just last Friday, I had 4 students who are kind of leaders in computer science. They are superb students in the classroom, but they also have a strong interest in bringing computer science to other students outside of the classroom, specifically to our K-8 students. So they told me in about an hour after school on Friday, about how they taught a course through continuing ed in Python over the summer to 4th graders, about how they have plans for Hour of Code activities for this December that they've already worked out, how they have plans to revise the after-school class that we have been teaching for the students have been teaching for several years at Westwoods in programming, and they've done all this work on their own over the summer and couldn't wait to show it all to me. So it's a privilege to work with such students, and that is one of the things that makes me excited to come to work every day in Farmington. Thank you.
Well, I'd like to open that up to the board to make any comments. Well,
Andre, I'll go.
oh, okay, go ahead.
I just wanted to thank you, Tim, for all of the, I didn't realize how you brought so much innovation and change during your career and opening it up, the area that you teach, to a wide variety of students. That's, I'm sure, that has had quite a ripple effect. But just to inspire and excite students about something that is really interwoven with our lives now, but taking that, the academic approach to that, and I'm sure that has, again, really opens students' eyes to how they can incorporate that into their college career or career after college. And just thanks for all of your hard work and dedication. We really do appreciate it.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
And I just want to say on behalf of the board that I want to congratulate you on the well-deserved award. Tim, you've had such a profound influence in program development and promoting access to robotics, STEM, and computer science. As the board chair, Bill Beckert, said, he couldn't be here this evening, but he said, Mr. Barron has demonstrated an unparalleled commitment to the students, families, and the entire Farmington High School community. He lifts others up with his mentorship and commitment to excellence in all aspects of his work as a mentor, teacher, and advisor. And I'd like to add that with the opening of the new Farmington High School, this magnificent building, and the opportunity it holds for teaching and learning and innovation, this award is so exciting and appropriate for you. So congratulations again on being the Farmington Public Schools 2024 Teacher of the Year.
Thank you very much.
So next, we have item 3B, the 2024-2025 Staff Member of the Year.
So I'm really thrilled to introduce Diane Hacker, and if you would come up to the podium. I also see that Mary Pat is here, our FPS EU president, and I know that I'm sure you're here to celebrate Diane as well. And I also see Carrie Huber, principal at Noah Wallace, and some Noah Wallace colleagues. So you have a big fan base here. We're thrilled to have Diane, a paraprofessional at Noah Wallace at the time, and now an office staff member at Westwood's Upper Elementary as our staff member of the year. Diane is highly dedicated and a very talented staff member and parent within our community. A project that she led that I think is a great example of what Tim was saying earlier, that we really try to support the innovation that our faculty and staff bring forward. They really make this district what it is, and so we celebrate when someone has an idea and we try to support that idea. So a project that Diane led was really working with students on conflict resolution through a peace path initiative at NOAA, really having students independently solve conflicts with one another. In order to do this, she wrote a grant through the Noah Wallace Fund for $8,000 to support this work. She trained faculty, staff, and students in the use of this important tool, and I have seen the results of it. It really is inspiring to see our students go through the process of the peace path independently, something that I think is just a model for all of our schools and schools across Connecticut. Diane embodies Farmington's core belief, actions matter. If there is an issue that needs to be addressed, Diane is quick to work collaboratively with others to solve it. Bringing the peace path to Noah Wallace has made that profound impact on ensuring our students are leaders in solving conflicts that may arise in a way that honors differing perspectives. She is a learner and someone who embraces new learning with enthusiasm and an action-oriented approach. I'm so thrilled that Diane is our 2025 Staff Member of the Year. She's so deserving of this honor. I've known Diane for a while, from when she was in the PTO as a leader there, and she's then joined us as a staff member and just continues to grow and contribute, and we're just so fortunate that you selected Farmington to be a part of, so thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay. Well, thank you, Kathy Greeter, Board of Ed members, Farmington Public Schools staff and faculty, and fellow Farmington parents and friends. I am so happy to be here tonight, and I'm so thankful for this recognition as Farmington Public Schools Staff Member of the Year. At Convocation, I had the privilege of addressing our staff and faculty on how the relationships that I have made in Farmington have enriched my life and created many meaningful and wonderful opportunities. Tonight, I will abbreviate my reflections, and in the vibe of a late-night talk show host, I'm going to share with you my top 5 reasons that I am thankful for being chosen as Farmington Staff Member of the Year. Coming in at number 5, I am thankful that Farmington Public Schools gives parents the opportunities to volunteer on the PTO, booster clubs, and on various committees that seek the feedback and involvement of parents. It was because of my years of volunteering at Noah Wallace School when my children were young that I decided that I wanted to work for the school district professionally. Reason number 4, I am thankful that my 2 children, your children, and all of our students are inspired, respected, and supported by their teachers, administrators, staff members, and coaches to be their best and authentic selves. We as a school community deliver on the values that actions matter, relationships matter, and feeling safe and valued as a community member matter. Reason number 3, I am thankful that we live in a town like Farmington that values in investing in diverse programming in town services that seek to inspire curiosity and personal interests that encourage every student to dream and explore about what makes them happy. Reason number 2, I am thankful for my colleagues and Principal Dr. Carrie Huber at Noah Wallace School for allowing me to be a respected and valued team member who is given the tools and encouragement to seek out alternative methods to meet our students where they are at, so that they can feel valued and learn to thrive in a school that appreciates and knows them as individuals. Coming in at reason number 1, I am thankful for the last 7 years of being a literacy tutor and for every student that I have had the privilege of instructing and getting to know as a person. I may have been their instructor, but what I learned and gained from their struggles and successes have inspired me to be more open-minded, flexible, and a compassionate educator and human. Thank you for this opportunity to join you here tonight and for this humbling recognition. I am appreciative to the voting members on the nomination committee who felt that I was a worthy staff member to represent our school district for this year. Thank you.
I'll open it up to the board if anybody would like to make any comments.
I have to speak on this one. Hi, Diane.
Hi, Beth.
So, like Kathy said, I've known you a long time, first as a Noah Wallace parent, and then when we got involved with PTO, you were a PTO leader and star. And it's just been great to see that segue into being an employee and now staff member of the year, such a valued employee. Your enthusiasm and just your caring personality, I know, have brought so much to the students and your coworkers, your colleagues, and administrators. So we're just so proud of you, and I'm glad to know you as a friend, and to have you here working in the district. I'm glad you're staying. Although you'll be going to Westwoods, I'm sure you're going to do great things there as well. Congratulations.
Thank you so much, Beth.
You're welcome.
So on behalf of the board, I want to, congratulate you for being the staff member of the year. But I've known Diane for a very long time, and I just want to recognize you for the person that you are. You're probably one of the kindest people I've ever met. I don't think I've ever heard something negative come out of your mouth. You always approach everything with a positive attitude and with enthusiasm, even when it's a problem. You never get stuck in the problem. You're always very solution focused. It's always been a pleasure to work with you. We've overlapped as volunteers in the PTO and travel soccer and, now with high school sports. And it's always been a pleasure to work with you. I admire you. And I think your work with students and families, you're a student and family-centered person, and they're better off for having you.
Thank you so much, Andrea. That means a lot to me. Thank you.
Congratulations again.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, item 5, approval of minutes. Item A, approval of the minutes for the June 11th, 2024 Board of Education Special Education meeting.
Motion?
Second.
Any comments? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Right. Item 6, consideration of the superintendent's report. Item A, welcome and comments from Farmington High School principal.
Okay, so it's fitting that Russ Christ, our principal, present at our first school presentation of the year in our new state-of-the-art, beautiful high school facility. He, along with Assistant Superintendent Kim Wynn, will share a presentation about the science and research, or the why, behind the various learning environments here at FHS and across our school. So welcome.
Thank you, Kathy. Good evening, and welcome to our first Board of Education meeting in our new building, specifically our Black Box Theater, a new space for us and one that we have big plans for. My name is Russ Christ. I'm the principal of FHS, and on behalf of my admin team, we want to thank you and thank the Board of Education and Central Office, along with the Building Committee, and especially the Farmington community for helping us get to this point. We have had a historically amazing first couple weeks of school. in our new space. And even as we work through some punch list items and continued construction in the auditorium, which should be wrapping up next week, walking around this building still feels like a dream come true. In the FHS community, we think about belonging before everything else. We know that if faculty, staff, and students feel a sense of belonging to our school community, then they will find success in all areas, including academically, behaviorally, and socially. Our consistent messaging and planning centers around our One Us motto. Being a Riverhawk means committing to excellence in all aspects of school life. Attendance is key, and every day counts. Showing up every day ready to engage and learn is the first step in taking full advantage of the opportunities available in the classroom, in athletics, clubs, and activities. As Riverhawks, we also uphold strong character, treating each other with respect, kindness, and integrity. We strive to challenge ourselves while knowing that support is always available to help us succeed. Whether pursuing academic goals or exploring extracurricular passions, being a Riverhawk means embracing growth, community, and the drive to be our best selves. This evening, Kim and I will outline what it looks like in our new space. I am thrilled to introduce Kim, who has been instrumental in the interior design of this building. The why behind many decisions that were made along the way we'll be talking about, and how they positively impact the teaching and learning that happens every day at FHS.
Thank you, Russ. It really is a dream come true. When the community was here, how many days ago now, I don't know, but it was just surreal to see so many awe-inspired faces walking around the building. And I know that most, if not all of you, have already had a chance to walk through the high school, but we thought it might be kind of insightful to listen to us say a few words about the why behind the design of these spaces. You know, there's a lot of research about the impact of a learning environment on adults and children. There's actually a book out there called The Third Teacher, which talks about how, yes, we have teachers and families, but the building itself can be a teacher. It's giving adults and children messages when they walk in the doors. We, as human beings, really respond to the built environment, taking in sensory information subconsciously. We're not even aware of it. Architecture itself really reflects societal norms and values, and what we understand about learning. So the statistics on schools across the United States will tell you that more than half of all schools were built in the early to late 60s, and most of these schools are now ready for a renewal. But at the time when schools were built like that, we understood the purpose of education much differently than we do now. We were preparing to empower a workforce that needed to be scaled up quickly. And we had the idea that children could be educated in batches. And with a common curriculum and pretty procedural knowledge, and everyone could be successful and move out into society and get a good paying job. And so schools and school architecture reflected this idea that you clustered students together, so you have long hallways, classrooms along the hallways, everyone kind of lockstep doing the same thing at the same time. Today, we're educating children much differently for a much different world. And I think last year at some point, Kathy actually referenced this lingo out there called the VUCA environment in the 21st century, a global society that's volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. That's the global economy that our children will be entering. And so when we think about the architecture of a building, we have to think about how we are going to educate children and our young adults very differently. So let's take a look at the spaces that we have here in this building and why they were, what was the thinking behind some of them. And I'm going to have Russ start with some of the basics.
Okay, I'm going to start off talking and covering our the basic needs in safety and security. The design of our new high school building was created with a deep sense of understanding of human needs, starting with the first tier of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, physiological and safety needs. When these basic needs, such as safety, warmth, and comfort, are not met, it becomes much more difficult and challenging to learn. That's why the foundation of our new building is ensuring that everyone feels safe, warm, and dry. For safety, we have included fewer entrances and exits, and we've separated public spaces from classroom spaces to create a secure learning environment. We've also eliminated leaks and the need for buckets and some of the other things that we had going on at the end of our tenure in our last building. Our temperature-controlled environment ensures that thermal comfort is always maintained. We've also prioritized modern technology to provide the highest air quality standards, contributing to a healthier and more comfortable space for learning. Finally, careful attention to acoustics was given, with ceiling tiles and acoustic panels installed in areas like the Grove and music rooms to enhance sound quality and to reduce distractions. You could actually see them along the walls in here as well. All of these design choices impact the frontal lobe of our brains, where focus and attention are centered. When students and staff feel safe and comfortable, their fight or flight response isn't activated, which allows them to engage fully in teaching and learning. In other words, by addressing these fundamental needs, we've created an environment where everyone can thrive.
So this next slide on biophilic design, you may not have heard of the word biophilic design before, but I would imagine you can infer what it means. When you walk around here during the day, wherever you are, you can look outside. You can see the beauty of this hillside, this outdoor environment. The design intentionally makes a connection to the natural elements in the natural world. So skylights, windows, looking at trees and grass and sun and sky. I mean, you're on the second floor in the front of the building. It's just utterly amazing what you can see from there. Whereas in our other building, you know, if you were on maybe the second floor, third floor out those front windows, you could see a glimpse of it. But the whole building wasn't oriented beautifully to the site that we have here. It's such a gift. When you think about biophilic design, you can make direct connections to our nervous system. Our nervous system actually calms down when we are exposed to nature. You know that from going for a walk or hiking or things like walking around the reservoir. It calms you. We can also bring those elements indoors. You saw some of the living wall plant structures that we have that are hydroponic. We have patterns, fabric patterns with leaves on them. These are just subliminal ways in which we're connecting our students to this idea of a restful and natural environment.
Thanks, Matt. We also understand the importance of movement and its role in enhancing learning. Research tells us that movement increases blood flow to the brain, which energizes thinking and supports cognitive function. Even during short breaks between lessons, the brain is unconsciously replaying and consolidating what was just taught, which is why we've designed this building to encourage movement. Ergonomic furniture allows for posture changes throughout the day, which improves focus and concentration. Standing desks and tables give students a chance to think on their feet without being disrupted. Allergies. Fostering active engagement in the classroom. Static sitting on hard chairs all day is not conducive to cognitive engagement, so we've designed spaces to keep students comfortable and mentally alert. You'll also notice that we've moved away from traditional, large, clunky teacher desks. Teachers now use mobile stations, allowing them to move freely around the room, interact with small groups or individual students. This supports the building thinking classrooms approach, which defronts the classroom and empowers students to take ownership of their learning, promoting student agency and self-direction. We were inspired by Dr. Dieter Breitiker, close, right? His research on kinetics and brain activity, which he calls bodies in motion, brains in motion. He emphasizes the importance of fidgeting and active movement to prevent the sleepy state that comes with static sitting. In our new building, we've applied this science, creating spaces where movement is not just allowed, but encouraged, helping students stay energized and engaged throughout the day. Another key feature of our new building is its adaptability. Everything is designed with flexibility in mind. Many of our furnishings and even walls are on wheels, allowing us to reconfigure spaces to meet both current needs and future ones we have yet to imagine. From our multi-purpose spaces like the Black Box Theater, which we're sitting in right now, and the Learning Commons to movable walls and classrooms, this school is built for change, progress, and reimagining. We anticipate that these adaptable spaces will create greater opportunities for cross-disciplinary work and innovative courses that promote connection between subjects, kind of like what you heard Tim talk about tonight, reflecting the real-world interconnectedness of knowledge. This kind of flexibility prepares us for the future, where learning is more dynamic and collaboration is key. In every way, this is a future-ready school, equipped to evolve as education continues to grow and change.
So this next idea, outer order, inner calm, I think we've all been inspired by Marie Kondo or all of those people on Pinterest or wherever it might be that encourage you, implore you to clean up your environment. Because when you are working in a clean and orderly environment, it again gives space for the brain to do that kind of creative thinking that we want our students to do. So overall, our building is very intuitive. You walk in the front door or even from the faculty parking lot, you can see front to back the whole space. You understand that public spaces are on this side, learning spaces, classrooms are on the other side. It's very intuitive and easy to figure out where you are and where you're going. There's a lack of visual clutter. There are repeated patterns and colors. These things are easy on the eye and again make space for more creative pursuits. This overall effect of visual simplicity is calming and allows the mind to relax. The next thing we were going to talk about is opportunities for informal conversation, gathering, places in the building where you just might bump into someone, a couple of teachers, sit down, have an impromptu conversation. These are the ways we're trying to inspire interdisciplinary thinking and learning to grow and innovative ideas to flourish. Students, it was just remarkable to see the first couple of days of school with students sitting in those semicircular couches in Main Street and just, chatting with each other and feeling like they kind of own the space already, which is wonderful. Collaboration and teaming is really at the heart of how we learn here. You see lots of places for students to meet up with other students, to work in those breakout spaces outside the classroom neighborhoods, in teams and project-based groupings. But you also see places for quiet thinking, places of pause, I would say, where we're encouraging students to have somewhere they can go if they're kind of upset or they're needing to reframe their mental state, go from the red zone to the blue zone on the ruler mood meter, to just sit and read a book, just sit and write in their journal. So all different kinds of spaces where our students can access the kind of learning and thinking and emotional interaction they need at the time. Oh, it's me too. Me next. So learning on display. We really value the idea of a growth mindset and feedback. We teach students that learning is a process, not a finish line. So we intentionally decided that we needed lots of places for the display of student work, sometimes finished products and sometimes work in progress. We have writable surfaces on walls and on some of the tables that students sit at, mobile whiteboards, tack boards, digital monitors, all of those kinds of things are messaging to students. We want to know what you think. We want you to think out loud and to work with each other and brainstorm ideas. So we are giving those messages. We want students to be curious when they walk down the hall and they can look right into the STEM lab or the art studios and see what kids are doing in there. You never know. You might spark an interest in something that they didn't know they had because the classroom doors aren't closed with the shades down and no one really knows what's going on in there. So those are all very intentional ways in which we are making learning visible, making thinking visible, and encouraging students to explore new talents and new ideas.
We're getting there, I promise.
Yeah, 2 more.
Our new building is designed to promote student agency, trust, and choice. In each classroom neighborhood, we've included breakout spaces where students can collaborate in small groups or with a partner, giving them greater control over how and where they learn. These spaces foster independence and encourage students to take ownership of their learning. You might have noticed the Senior Summit, an open, inviting area that is a symbol of earned independence. This space represents our belief in students' ability to manage their time and responsibilities as they prepare for life beyond Farmington High School. The open balconies and soft seating throughout the school also send a clear message. We trust our students to make good choices. By providing these flexible and comfortable spaces, we're reinforcing the connection between high expectations and high trust. We believe that when students feel trusted, they rise to the occasion, making designs that align with their goals and the values of our school community. As you walk through the new building, you've probably noticed the many symbols of the school spirit and Riverhawk pride, even down to the clocks. You can see one on that side over there. From the moment students step inside, there's a strong sense of shared identity that unites us all. We are excited for even more definitive signage to come, with Riverhawk pride and academic excellence represented in everything from the VOGC to the FTL adorning the walls, which are still in the works. Right now, you may also notice blank walls and empty showcases. These spaces are just waiting to be filled with student-created objects, artwork, and projects that celebrate the unique talents and rich diversity of our school community. This building is ready to showcase what makes each and every one of our students special and representative of who we are in Farmington Public Schools. As Kim and I have discussed many times, while this new building is a beautiful house at the moment, it will truly become a home once it reflects the personalities, talents, and spirit of its occupants, our students, teachers, and staff. Together, we'll fit with the pride and achievements that make being a Riverhawk special.
And lastly, in Farmington, we have an "and" mindset. So we're very proud of our past, our traditions, and we are innovative thinkers and doers and designers. So in the same way that we still see our beautiful 1928 building on the hill side by side with our unbelievably new, state-of-the-art high school, it just exemplifies that "and" mindset. And when you walk around in the building, you see digital display boards and screens that come down from the ceiling, and you might see a guest speaker in a classroom who's maybe in another country across the world, bringing, the world to the student and the student to the world. But then you'll see students reading a book and writing on a piece of paper and making a beautiful piece of pottery. So it's that entirely inclusive kind of space that we want to create for our students who are our future. And we're so proud and so thankful to be able to do that. And there's so many wonderful things to come. So that's it. Oh, you have one last thing.
In closing, the FHS admin team would like to thank you, Kim, because this building would not be what it is without
Do any board members have any questions or comments for Ross or Kim?
I would just want to add, having gone to school here many moons ago, this is just amazing and much deserved. All the hard work, because many of you, Kim and everyone who's been involved, were doing their normal everyday job and then also planning for this school to open and packing and moving, and everything I've heard has just been nothing but outstanding from an execution perspective. So great job, and just super proud of still coming here to Farmington High.
Angela?
Yeah, I just had a quick question. I agree with Nadine. It's awesome. I mean, coming in here, you feel like you're on a college campus. It's beautiful, so innovative. I just had a quick question in terms of, are we completed? Like, are there any punch list items, or because I know this was one of the punch list items, but it's done now, right? That we're sitting in. So we're good? Like, we're all done?
No.
No, we're not.
Close.
No, working through punch list. I think, as people are experiencing things, we're adding things to the punch list, especially we had teachers back at the end of August, then we got students back, and as you're going through like the everyday functioning and use of different spaces, some different things have popped up. Also, we do anticipate the finishing of the auditorium. We have our open house on the 26th of this month, and we hope to be in that space a week from this Thursday for that. That's the last really big space, and then it's just smaller punch list items along the way.
Cool. Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you for the presentation, and also my daughter, who's a junior, wants to get to school early every day, and she doesn't want to leave. She had a study hall last period today, and I said, do you want to come home early? I'll pick you up. And she's like, no, I don't think so. So it speaks to what's going on in the building, and how they feel about being here. So.
I see that Joe Capitafaro is here, and want to just extend our thank you to the town council and their collaboration with this board and our Farmington High School Building Committee. Without all of you working so amazingly together to make this happen, and then our community, all of our community members supporting it, it's just honestly just a point of pride for this community that everyone works so well together on behalf of our students. So I want to say thank you to everyone, and our, I work very closely with the town staff as well, and our staff. We all, again, work really well together. It's a very special place. A lot of my colleagues will talk about, wow, you are not only your offices are with the town and you work well together. This is just very extraordinary. And we really are all owners and actors here of the work, and we take it, so seriously. You can see all the thought behind this building, the research, the science behind every little detail. It really took everyone's efforts to get here, and Sam, Matt, Kim, Scott, Russ, our faculty, our staff, our students, our professional partners, everyone working together to get to this finish line. And we have what I will say is a punch list is a much better punch list with having us live here. Our faculty, our staff, our students are informing those areas that we really have to, finish up. And we might not have had such a complete punch list without actually living in the space. I love this presentation. We did this, Kim did this presentation at Convocation, and we encouraged our faculty and staff to look within all of our schools. You'll see evidence of these features within all of our schools. Even though some of our schools were built many, many, many years ago, the furniture is flexible, and we we have outdoor classrooms now. So we're really working on whether it's a new building that was imagined by all of us not that long ago, or a school that was built many years ago. These design features are very much a part of what we think about every year when we think about continuous improvement. And it goes back to the and. We really honor our traditions in Farmington, and we're a very innovative and progressive place in education and on the municipal side of things too. We're always trying to improve and grow. So I just encourage all of you, as you visit our schools and our classrooms, to think about these different features, because it does build in that why. Why do we do these things? Why do we buy flexible furniture? And why have we really tried to clear out our hallways and have, calm and subtle colors on our walls? All of these things are very thoughtful and carefully done. So just wanted to thank everyone, because it's a very special and historic time for all of us. And it's like Tim Barron said, I think we all cried a little bit when we went through the building when it was all done, because it was an emotional reaction for all of us, to know that generations of Farmington students, all our students in K-8 schools, are going to enjoy this high school and benefit from it.
All right, next up on the agenda, item 6B, transportation update from Specialty Transportation.
So as you're aware, we have experienced some challenges, many challenges related to transportation service as we transition to a new company. And that was a long process we went through. And in our letters to the community, whether those letters came from Specialty or from the school district, we know that there were times that, it was unacceptable for our students and families to experience these transportation challenges in the opening weeks and days of our new school year. The safety and well-being of our students are our top priorities within our classrooms, our schools, and when students are traveling to and from school on buses. And we know, we are working with Specialty since April of 2024. And we're going to continue to work closely with Specialty to ensure there is a clear understanding of our expectations. This is outlined, in our contract, as well as in the concerns that have been raised by our community, which mirror our expectations and concerns. And just like in the communications we've sent, we're working on, improving bus runs, safety, and on-time pickup and drop-off, so it is reliable and dependable for our families. Improve communication, both internal and external, and improving follow-up from feedback that the bus company receives from our families and from us. Mike Turner, the Vice President of Operations, and Tim Griffin, our Farmington manager from School Specialty, are here this evening to provide a summary of what they've done so far and what they faced in the opening of school related to transportation, and then answer any questions the Board of Education has. We do have a slide here that does outline central office and the things that we've done since April, in case there are any questions about that. And Dan Zatoon and Matt Ross are here to provide that information. We've worked very closely over the last several months to plan for the transition of a new bus company. We did have summer school, as all of you know, so that was kind of a test run of transportation, and then the launch of the school year. So this, has been any transition of a new vendor in a school district, is a heavy lift, and we've been working very closely with School Specialty. So I have, here's a slide of just month by month some of the things that central office worked on. And this was a very busy time for us. We opened a new school, and we also welcomed a new bus company. And, I'm very proud of the staff and all their hard work over the last few months. But I also know the community's interested in hearing from Mike and School Specialty, and then asking any questions you might have. That's why Mike is here. So, thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Obviously, we've heard many concerns from individuals, families, schools, Board of Ed members, and we understand that. the transition period into a new contract, even though we have obviously other contracts across the state, 5 other contracts across the state, is always a hefty burden on any company that comes in. I told the board members when we met during the interview process, I'm from the town of Farmington. I graduated class of '97. I know I'm familiar with the town. That being one thing, and the other thing is obviously the changes that have come since I've been a student here, the number of neighborhoods that have gone in, the amount of traffic that is now there, all these factors add up. We do every start of the school year and every contract that we have existing is always about a week or two before everything kind of smooths itself out. With run adjustments, because all runs are not the same as they were the previous year. Obviously, with a new contract, that gets added to because you're coming in as a new company that didn't have that advantage of being in the contract prior to the start of the school year. So, we were very proactive with, getting our runs done early, getting as many drivers in as we could to do the dry runs on the routes that we had. Obviously, many of you are well aware of day 1 of school. We take full responsibility for that day. That was on us. We were continuing to make changes over the weekend before school started, and we didn't communicate that well enough to the schools that there was changes to the routes. So when they had their rosters, we had students that were on buses that weren't supposed to be there, which obviously caused a delay and panic for parents, which I don't blame them, not knowing where their child was because they're on the opposite side of town. And then obviously that was a huge delay for the second tier. So that was definitely on us. Since then, we've made several changes. Just to break it down for most of you, if not all of you, are not in the transportation business, specifically school bus transportation. Historically, and our practice is not to make any major changes in the first week of school. Hands down, no matter what, unless it's a safety issue. So yes, there were parents that were concerned about their stop or wanted a different stop and were contacting us. We were answering as many as we could. We did get more staff in to try to help that. We're still catching up on that. And so, by company practice, we don't make changes in the first week of school, just so that kids can get used to it, drivers can get used to the run for the most part, and then we make changes, which we did the first weekend of school. And I think by looking at the school arrival times and departure times from the meetings that we're having on almost a daily basis with Dan and principals from schools, I think we made a major improvement in the second week and in the third week. Do we still have our hiccups? Yes, we do. I'm not going to deny that. We all know that. We have students that are on the bus for longer than need be. At times, we have drivers that still are coming in that are unfamiliar with the town. That's just because of call-outs. Unfortunately, company-wide, but specifically in Farmington, we had a bout of illness that went through the office in the late second week of school, which obviously doesn't help. I'm not using it as an excuse. I'm just letting you know what happened. So we're bringing in drivers from other yards, and we're putting employees from the yard on the run with them to try to help them navigate as best as possible. That causes delays. And so, we're trying to work out the kinks. Specifically, what we're trying to get done right now, which, again, it's not acceptable to you, but on a timeline for a new contract in the bus industry is still on target, is we're getting the buses to the schools almost at the target time. Most schools, we have a 1, maybe 2 bus outlier. I'm not talking about an exception to the rule where a bus was hung up somewhere. And we had one today where a student fell asleep in the back of the bus and they did their whole route. They found him before they went to the next school. We had to go drop that student off at the house, which made that bus late. That's an exception to the rule. But on a normal running basis, I think we're getting to those target numbers. We made changes again this weekend, and I know a lot of parents, because we're getting a lot of emails, are getting frustrated with the amount of changes that we're making. We're not doing it intentionally to make you frustrated. We're doing it so that we can adjust the runs appropriately to have the buses on time at the schools, both in the morning and in the afternoon. I think we're getting there. I think we're very close. It's just going to be with consistencies of the drivers and students getting used to the arrival time of their bus. So I know that the school policy is 10 minutes ahead before and 10 minutes after the pickup time on the route sheet or the information that you're sent. You will see as the year goes on, specifically when you have the same driver, the students are gonna have a consistent pickup time, because that's the time that works. The driver doesn't need to leave earlier. If something were to happen with the driver and they're running late, obviously we go through the process of letting the parents know that. But I do think that we're there. Again, we understand that there's a frustration level, and it's very high with the town, with schools, parents, students. We understand that, and we do apologize for that. But we are working through that with the existing staff, and it will be settled down, and it will be settled down quickly for you.
I'll open it up to the board for questions for Mr. Turner.
And Mike, I'll kick it off. First, thank you for being here and facing the community that you now serve. I don't have any personal anecdotes to share. I think that would be kind of a waste of time at this point, but I do want you to know I share in the frustration of some of the parents, heard it personally, answered a lot of phone calls, a lot of emails, and I share in that frustration. The appearance to us was that regardless of the fact that there was a general expectation that there would be some hiccups along the way, that first week was pretty egregious with regards to the hiccups that we experienced. So it was really hard to kind of come back from that from just like a mental perspective for me personally. Yep. And I think that's kind of what drives some of that frustration, is that you kind of dug a hole for yourself. Yep. Early. So I think we had, based on our previous vendor, we had pretty low expectations going in, but we were cautiously optimistic, ready to turn the page. And I think what we've gotten to now, and even today, a couple of reports of some late buses and things like that. What I'm getting at is, I think with all of the changes in the routes, you noted this, right? When can parents and the community expect those route changes to cease? When can we get to?
I don't want to put a specific date on it, but I do feel that, or I'm hoping that by the middle of this week, by the end of the week, we're going to have, with the adjustments we made over the weekend, I'm hoping that we hit those target times of arriving to the school, both AM and PM, on time without having late buses there. That lets us know that the routes are running how they're supposed to run, and then we can go into specific requests from parents for any additional stops, if they want to change their bus stop, if they, if they're at one of the members of the community mentioned that their child was the first one on the bus and then the last one off the bus for the day. That does happen, and we can look into specific routes like that to see if we can make changes. So again, I'm hoping by the end of the week that we're hitting those target marks for the buses for arrival times, AM and PM at the school, and then we can make any other adjustments there. Now, the other adjustments after that would be a specific one-on-one with the parent, unless, of course, we were flipping the runs to make, if the board had requested that, we need to make sure that the kids that are getting on first are getting off first in the afternoon, as long as the run works that way. So that would be just a specific bus itself, rather than a large portion of the community.
Thanks. And then just, I would love to clear up maybe some of the rumors, the stories, things that we've heard anecdotally out there in the public. Is each bus equipped with a two-way radio?
It is. We've had issues, which are, we use Marcus Communication. They're a pretty large company for two-way radios. We have had issues where the radios weren't working properly, and if the individual bus, we know that there's an issue with the radio, we also have handheld units that driver can use. We did run into a problem in the first week of school where the drivers didn't have the proper channel on, so we were trying to call them, and then obviously you have to get a hold of them in different means, which isn't always an easy thing to do because they're driving a bus, obviously full of kids. But the radio systems, I think, Tim, correct me if I'm wrong, I think there's one or two buses that we're still waiting on Marcus to come and fix the radio for us, but those drivers do have handhelds. But yes, they do have two-way communication.
And lastly, before I'll be quiet for a little while, do we have enough buses to fulfill the contract?
We do.
Okay,
Yep.
thanks.
Anybody else?
I can certainly go.
Nadine?
Probably share in a lot of the feelings. While I no longer have students in the district, I feel for all the parents. I was extremely disappointed in what transpired from the first day of school. I really thought we'd hit the ground running with some bumps. But as I've seen, some are hearing some progress. My concern is if we knew, you said I think, Kathy, your slide something about the routes in June. If you noticed that you sent out routes that may have been wrong or not working as well, why didn't we revert back to the routes you had, steady state for a bit of time, and then based on the drivers say what changes needed to be made versus changing everything at the beginning way late in the process and then causing such disruption to the first. Now we're in week 4 and we're still hearing there's issues with the times and routes and different substitutes and, so why didn't we just revert back early on?
Are you referring to the changes we made over the weekend prior to school? Is that
Correct.
what you're referring to? It's twofold. The answer's twofold. The first is when we have drivers coming in and doing dry runs, at that point we did notice safety issues with a couple of those runs, which had to be changed. The other factor, which is not anybody's problem but ours, was we had expected 5 additional drivers that were from the previous bus company to come work for us, and we found out that Saturday before school started that they no longer were coming over. They were going to stay with M&J, so we had to make adjustments that way. And again, if we had communicated the information properly, the schools would have had the correct roster. So the issue, granted, we were late in the morning, but that's expected with buses on the first day of school anywhere, just because of delays of students not being there, buses waiting till the appropriate pickup time, all those fun factors that go in. So we were running behind in the morning. We probably could have done better, but in the afternoon is where everything kind of hit the fan, right? We had students on the wrong bus, and that's because our lack of communication. But that's the reason why we had to change it. Those 2 factors were the major factors of why we had to change the runs over the weekend prior to school starting.
And then additionally around communication, I think it's been poor at best, and would hope that there shouldn't be anybody waiting for responses back. Weeks are going by. I mean, I know individuals who 2 weeks, no response, no phone call, people getting hung up on. That's unacceptable. So I really hope that we're turning the corner in the communications to our families' responses and what the SLA, I think last week in the communication, it's 48 hours. I would expect it to be actually less. So I'm hoping that's another area that's heavily focused on.
It is, and like I said, we're still doing catch-up work with that because of the amount of emails, especially that we received during the first week of school. We're trying to make sure that we get a hold of everybody. I can assure you that there's people in the town that haven't heard from us, and it's absolutely true. We are doing our best to get back to everybody and answer them, and make sure that they know that they're heard and that we understand their frustration and that we are working to improve that.
And if I can, like James, add a third final question. Just around, is there any limited hours by which bus drivers can be driving? Whether, if they're on, the high school and then going to IAR, and then is there a time limit that they can drive and then have to stop and switch with somebody? Is that causing any changes in drivers?
Not in our industry. I believe, I could be wrong, I wish my master trainer was here to correct me, but I believe it's 8 hours on, and I think you have to have 6 hours off, but that's like for a charter driver, that would be doing that.
Okay.
So because of the fact that we have, well, anywhere from 2 to 3 hour runs in the morning, and then we have the long break in the middle of the day, that's not an issue for us.
Okay, thank you.
Angela?
I'm going to echo everything that James and Nadine just said. I will tell you, I am a parent of a 6 and an 8-year-old in the district. I personally have never identified myself when communicating with you as a Board of Ed member, just as a parent. I have 2 unanswered emails, so I could just imagine what's out there if this is how, I feel as an elementary-aged parent of 2 young boys. As doing my homework for this meeting, I went over the contract, because I think when someone spoke earlier today, I think his name was James, I don't know him, he talked about a baseline standard. So to me, it's very clear what a baseline standard should be. It's in our contract, right? So I have a laundry list of things that I would have concerns over, which for the sake of time of everyone, I'm not going to go through every one, including some of the things James and Nadine mentioned in terms of GPSs. If there's GPSs, I'm not sure how drivers are going through and around cul-de-sacs, which was what my email was about, cameras and a bunch of things. But in the spirit of being solution-oriented, 2 things that are in the contract are that no student shall remain at school waiting for transportation home for more than 15 minutes after school has been dismissed, and no student will be dropped off at his or her bus stop later than 50 minutes after leaving the school, except under extraordinary conditions. So I guess where I'm struggling, and I think, James and Nadine mentioned it as well, is I think it was not just kinks, as you had mentioned when you're explaining what happened the first few weeks of school. My children were on the bus for almost an hour and a half the first week of school, coming home sweating. What are we doing proactively to try to address some of these issues? My background is also in operations and logistics. If we have an issue of anything like this, we are looking at data constantly to try to evaluate where our problems are, ad nauseum. I have not seen, and maybe I'm not privy to it, but I would love to see a very simple spreadsheet of buses, pickup time, arrival time at school, pickup time in the PM, last child dropped off. If you're looking at that data on a day-to-day basis, it's very clear where your issues are, and I'm just not certain why that's not being done, and I'd like to understand that better. Just prior to this meeting, I received messages and phone calls from families at Union School bus number 1, which arrived at the school at 4 p.m. today. The IAR late bus didn't arrive till after 4 p.m. today. I mean, that doesn't seem to me as if we're getting better, to be honest. That doesn't seem like a kink. If Union bus number 1 was an issue and you're having daily communications, this parent asked me, why didn't I know about this earlier? I would have spared my children, this torture basically of being on the bus for this long and picked them up. So can you just speak to, I guess, the data that you're using to try to solve this problem, and are we sharing it with this group to any extent?
We're using the data from, we know when our buses are clear, which is after the second tier. We're also using our data that we receive from the Board of Ed for arrival times at the school, both AM and PM. The way our routes are built, that if the school gets to the school on time, whether it's in the AM or the PM, the route is built so that they have time to get to the next school, the next tier, whether in the AM it would be to the first stop for a student, and in the PM it would be obviously to the school. Specifically to Union 1, we haven't had an issue with that bus this entire year. That was the example I gave, actually, where we had a sleeping student on the bus and the driver had to revert all the way back to the neighborhood, which made it late. When we found that, as soon as we found that out, that the child was sleeping, we called the school so they could send the message out to the parents. But we're looking at that data on a daily basis. We are marking down every bus that may be late for whatever reason, so that we can look at it better and analyze it you know, and say, is this a busing issue and a routing issue versus this is an outlier because there was a major accident, or this was an outlier because a student was sleeping on the bus. And we've identified many of those runs. Over the last 2 weekends, that's the reason why we've taken off stops for specific runs and added another vehicle to take those extra stops and move them around that way, to try to get those buses that we're identifying by that data to the schools on times, making sure they're at the stops on times, and making sure that AM and PM, that the students are getting home in a timely manner.
So could your drivers report that information though to you, and you could summarize it to us? Like, I feel like when you're saying you're relying on the principals to give you that data, that just seems like more work for us, in my opinion, and more work for the principals. They're not bus, monitors. Like, if your driver is dropping a bus off at 9:15, aren't they logging that into you anywhere and identifying this was late, and you're like marking that down? I guess I'm just confused.
Well, a driver that would be that late would let us know when they arrive to the school. That's so we can mark it down. The check-in system with the schools and the spreadsheet that we're getting is pretty standard in the practice of school bus transportation. All schools that we have contracts with do that for the first few weeks, if not the first 2 months of school, just so they have the data handy for them when we have meetings with the Board of Ed or with principals or whoever. They have that data handy, which obviously helps us. You could imagine with the amount of vehicles we have on the road, when we're trying to get a hold of drivers for whatever reason it may be, for every driver to check in every time they get to the school just kind of clogs up the two-way radio. So it's a better option to do it this way. And obviously they can let us know if there's buses or vehicles that are habitually late that we can make adjustments on right away.
Okay. In terms of the GPS in these buses, does that exist, and are the routes programmed into those GPSs? Because I'm struggling to understand some of the routes that were taken through our neighborhood where the driver's taking the kids through cul-de-sacs to just wind up back on the main road to drop kids off, which is quite frankly frightening to the kids who know that they're in their neighborhood and it's taking 45 minutes to do a route that should be about 5 minutes.
Yeah, so the GPS in the vehicles that's referred to in the contract is not GPS. It's not like a Garmin system. It's GPS tracking for the vehicles so that the Board of Ed or the company can see where the vehicle is. We can also analyze their route from it. It has route data to see where they went and where they made the mistake or the wrong turn, if that were to happen. So it's historical tracking GPS, not GPS for the vehicle to follow.
Okay, and then this will be my last thing, and I could go on. I mean, I'm in full support. You seem like a very nice person. This is not a personal thing, but at the same time, we were all elected to represent our constituents, and this is a business. I mean, we're giving you almost $24 million of taxpayer dollars over the next 5 years for what we promised to be a better service, which is turning out to, right now, we can't really say that. I mean, we're hoping that's where we get to, but this is clearly not a better service right now. Another part of the contract, which I'm in full support of, that I hope that we are doing this, is if in the event one or more vehicles do not operate in compliance with this agreement, which we've just discussed about 2, we could probably add another 5 onto that, over each independent route on any school day, the entire daily cost of such vehicle shall be deducted from the contractor's invoice charges. I think we owe that to our residents, to our taxpayers, that there's some type of accountability. I don't see anywhere in here, although you gave an explanation as to maybe why things happened, that's not in the contract. It didn't say, this is what we're laying out, but we need 2 to 3 weeks to kind of get ourselves feet on the ground. So I hope that we're exploring that and going to look into this, and I'm not sure if that's Dan or whoever, but I do feel a sense of obligation to our residents that we are upholding our contract. I think we have upheld our end of it. We negotiated in good faith. You are given almost $24 million over 5 years, so I'll just end by saying that. Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. I think, Erica, you have your hand up?
Yeah, mine are more just some clarification questions. So when the question was asked about the buses, if you are at full capacity with buses, I just want to make sure, are we talking about the actual buses themselves, or are you talking about bus drivers? Are there any, you mentioned earlier as well that there was I think it was five, you said, bus drivers who the day before you were counting on, but
Yeah.
were not there. So so I guess it's a differentiation between the two. Are you talking about the physical buses, or are you talking about the full capacity of bus drivers?
So we have enough buses. Bus drivers, we have, I don't know the exact number. We do have some drivers, I believe there's 4 that are coming from other yards. However, those 4 have been consistent since the beginning of the school year. So they basically are learning the run. They're staying on the same run unless for whatever reason they have to be switched up, but that doesn't happen very often if it even has happened yet. Those 4 are staying on those specific runs. And if we have a Farmington assigned driver that calls out, the spare is coming from another yard right now. I do want to let you know that we have 5 trainees that are going through the training process become licensed to drive a school bus. 4 of them are very close to the end, with the 5th being right behind them. And we also have, I think it's about 4 or 5 more, but they're at the beginning part of the process. The whole process from start to finish, getting your permit and taking the test, going through all the paperwork, averages about 6 weeks. So those 4 or 5 that just started, they're about 4 to 6 weeks out. 2 of them are testing tomorrow, actually, and the other 2 are testing next Thursday, with the other one, I think, the following test date, which we'll get from the DMB. They assign the test dates, we don't get to make them ourselves. So we have some people coming in, and they will, take over the routes that the drivers from the other yards are currently doing. Actually, they're all riding on those routes now with those existing drivers, so they're the navigator or monitor on that route, being paid by us so when they are licensed, they know how that route runs. So there shouldn't be any hiccup when they take over for that driver. Those 4 or 5 drivers that are from other yards right now that are currently doing Farmington routes are going to stay on in our yard with us for the foreseeable future until those people that just started the process are licensed and ready to go back in, so that they're familiar with the town. That's the way we're handling our driver situation.
Yeah, and you may have shared this with us, but I just don't remember right now. So when a driver calls, what's the policy when a driver is going to call out sick, say that because it may disrupt the following day, right? So you may have a shortage. So what's the policy of notification to you all? Is it within the night before? Is it few hours?
I wish they knew the night before. It would
Well,
make my life a lot
yeah.
easier. It's, we have, the policy is that they're supposed to call in as early as possible.
Okay.
So if they know they're going to bed and they don't feel well and they don't think they're going to make it in, it's better for them to call the night before so that we're prepared for the following morning. Most call-outs we'll get in the morning. Tim's in the office at 4:30 in the morning every day, so he checks the voicemails. They all have his cell phone, so he may know earlier. And we're checking drivers in to make sure they're there. Beginning of the school year, we're having drivers come in a half hour earlier than they're supposed to be, just so that we know that they're there. And if we don't see somebody, we're making sure that we're proactive, looking to get a driver to cover that run much earlier than we would be if they were coming in at their normal punch-in time.
Yeah.
So that way we're kind of so that we're not behind the 8 ball.
Yeah, so you're getting to my leading question is that, especially with shortages, right, or a disruption in that morning or the afternoon, someone gets sick in the afternoon, can't finish their afternoon route or whatever it may be, is how much lag time do you have to be informed, to then be able to communicate to the school district, to the school principal, and so forth, because then that leads to communication, right? Communication flow to the parents, communication flow, so that way it's minimizing surprises as much as possible for the family, that they know that, my child's bus is already running late, I may have to get to work a little bit early, I can't wait for the bus, so let me just transport them myself. I mean, that's the worst case scenario. We don't want to
Yeah.
be doing that, but the more lag time or the more in time you have to be informed, right, the better it is for planning purposes
Yeah.
for those worst case scenarios. So that's, one of my thoughts there. The other one is, so when we talked about the question around, so you're going to spend some time double checking or triple checking, whatever may be, the run adjustments, making sure they're within that 10-minute ahead, 10-minute drop off in the morning, and then 10-minute in the afternoon. When we get past this, and we will get past this, I believe that. But when we get past this, and you mentioned earlier about then possibly making some specific changes per those one-off requests. My concern there, and it's not that I'm not saying we cannot meet the needs of our community, but I would want to know, whether it be that one-off request is how are those decisions being made for those one-off requests, because it can lead to a snowball effect, meaning that it could impact other, what you thought was already a route that was adjusted, had been data collected, so forth, and it seemed to be running smoothly. Now you make an adjustment, and that can be a snowball effect that impacts the rest of the route. So I would want to know how those decisions are made before a decision is made to make a change in a route.
So those decisions wouldn't be made unless we were coordinating with the town. Whether it's Dan or Kathy or the principal, whoever they want us to speak to about that for changes, those specific changes. And we would obviously have to look at it and see if it makes sense to do it that way to make those changes. I'm not saying that we're making 100% of them. I'm not even saying we're making 10% of them. But if there is a specific situation that we can make the change and we know for certain that it's not going to affect the timeliness of the route, we'll have a conversation with school officials before we had a conversation with the parent.
And sorry, one last thing I just have to say, because I do believe that I truly believe we're going to get to a better space. And, I'm an operations person too. I run my own institute and very much always look to how can we do things better? How do we improve not only, and for the purposes of that, by improving, we're building trust. By improving, we're building that the community can rely on us, so being reliable, responsive, right? And then most importantly, for our children, that they feel that they are headed into a bus, they feel safe, they don't feel traumatized at all, and they feel ready to learn when they get to that building. And so to me, I think, I want to focus on the solutions, as all of us have said, but I also want to focus on the fact that that as we focus on these solutions, it's all for the betterment of our children, our students, so that they can be ready for learning in their space. And then when they come home, they're ready to explore their outdoor world in the afternoon. So I believe we're going to get there, but echoing everybody here as well, that for me, the voice of our children, our students, and the voice of our community, we want to trust you. We want to know that we can rely on you, and we want to know that you're going to be responsive to the needs that are being laid out, so that to ensure the safety of our kids as they're being transported back and forth.
I completely agree with you. I couldn't agree more. We tell our drivers all the time, our managers, our safety personnel, even our mechanics, that we're transporting people's most precious cargo. So the safety is obviously the top of our list, no matter what we do. I do want to assure you, and I'm glad you have confidence in me, and with specialty transportation, this will get better. It will get better. I know you may look at it and say, I don't see how it can get better. Trust me, it will. 11 years ago, we were awarded the Avon contract, very similar town to Farmington. I'm an Avon resident. I have 3 children of my own. Granted, at that time, only my oldest, who's now a senior, was riding the buses. And I was getting yelled at by my wife at the house for how bad the buses were. And it lasted about 2.5 to 4 weeks. I'm not saying that that's what's going to happen here. We're fixing it quicker, and I think that we're turning that corner and getting there. But I was standing up in front of the Board of Ed and the angry parents in the town of Avon as well. Same thing happened in Guilford 7 years ago with parents, and they weren't happy with the transition. I would love to say that it's not the nature of the beast. I would love to say that, we've been perfect everywhere else and we just screwed this one up. And I am taking full blame for day one because that was, again, I apologize. That was ugly and shouldn't have happened. But it will get better. And I have that confidence only because we pride ourselves on our reputation, our safety, our answering concerns. I have the title of Vice President of Operations. This is a small family-owned business. Granted, we do have a lot of contracts, but most companies, you're not having me stand up here and talk to you. I'm not meeting almost on a daily basis with the board. I'm not meeting, a different principal almost every day from the town. Most companies, they're just throwing it off on their manager or somebody else to take their place. So we do take it very seriously. This is what we do. And I can assure you, again, whether you believe me or not, this will change and it is going to get much, much better, and you'll be very happy with our performance and our service. And again, I'll just say, like I said, I went through this with Avon, and it was rough for about a month or two. And we've now on our second 5-year extension with them, so we're in our 11th year without going out to bid. So I think that kind of speaks to the satisfaction that they were given with the rough start. And then Guilford the same way. We had a rough start, and we would have had a longer extension, but the town statute would only allow them to give us 3. So we're in our second year of the 3-year extension with them. So just to try to give you some reassurance that we do know what we're doing and we take this very seriously.
I have a question about the safety on the buses. Do you have any data on how many incidents a bus driver has had to stop and remind students of their behavior on the bus?
I don't have a specific number, but we do have incident reports in our office where we have driver write-ups for that. I can't speak to every single driver that's actually doing the report when that happens, because they may have had to pull over, speak to them once, and then it didn't happen again, so they didn't want to get the kids in trouble. There are bus drivers like that, but we have them in our office.
When they pull over, what's your policy or procedure for pulling over? We had on my street, it's a very busy street, and I know that it's a cut through for UConn Medical.
Okay.
And that's a shift change, and I'm glad Mr. Capitaferro's here because he's a former police officer, used to stand out in front of the house and take radar. The bus on September 10th, last Tuesday, stopped in front of the house and let a child off in the wrong house, but the child ran to the house. He was safe. The bus was stopped in the double lane, double yellow line. No lights flash and nothing. And the driver there was 3 or 4 students on the bus at the time, and it was there for a few minutes. Just wondering about what the procedure is. How far off the road, or?
They're supposed to pull off to the side of the road with their hazards on in a safe area. So busy streets are obviously not where they want to pull over. Sometimes you can't avoid a busy street just because if you need to talk to the students to sit down, if you're trying to find a side road or something that could get you off track, or you could miss a student's bus stop when you're trying to get the students to sit down.
Yeah, well, my concern was
yeah,
safety and well-being. There was no flashing lights or anything.
Yeah, safe area. They're supposed to have their hazards on, and they're supposed to secure the bus before they have to, especially if they're getting out of their seat, to speak to the students and informing them to sit down.
Yeah, I'm very familiar.
I can't speak on the specific incident, but that is a policy.
Okay. But I understand, and I understand all the frustration because I'm a former teacher and I've been through, I'm on the other side of it, getting the phone calls. So this was one major thing, though. I was really upset about that.
Okay.
Anybody
Andrea?
else? Beth?
Yeah, so I kind of wanted to take a little different tack, or just make sure, especially for the benefit of the community, that we talk a little bit just about context. And we were talking about how the district and how the administration kind of addressed some of the things and how we've been working together. obviously the rollout was very chaotic. There were a lot of families and children that were, as we talked about, affected by long wait times, long ride times, missed pickups, lost drivers, and then the communication. We've talked about all that, and I think those are things that you're honing in on, and I talked to the superintendent. I think there's incremental improvements, and I do think in the first month or so we would expect that, but hoping to see that change, continued change for the better. But, the start of the new year, and with a lot of projects and everything else that's on administrators' tables, the principals, central office, had to really put everything on pause and address this and figure out how to work together with you and do things like ride on the buses, teachers, principals, administrators, sitting at the depot just to get a sense of the flow and, was there any observations and changes that we could make for improvements. That's a cost to our district because we're paying people to do now really what your responsibility is. So, I think we need to take that into account. I hope that's winding down now and things are shifting more to, you making staff changes that are necessary and kind of responding to any recommendations and suggestions you're getting from those regular meetings with our administrators. But it's been tough on our faculty, staff, and administrators too. And I just think we need to be aware of that and that they have really stepped up. And I just want to commend them for dealing with a challenging start to the school year. This was a bright spot with the new high school, but we had kind of the other side with the transportation issues that kind of affected that negatively. I think most everyone asked the specific questions that I had just wondered about when I heard about examples of problems. So I understand that the GPS is tracking only, doesn't give them directionals. Do you see that changing at any point?
No, the buses aren't equipped with that.
Okay.
I can always look into if they're allowed to be a plug-in system for drivers. I think that our route drivers will be fine once the routes are settled and consistent. Consistent, or I shouldn't say consistent. They are the same.
Right.
Once the final adjustments are made, I think our route drivers will be fine with that. I can see if that's possible to get for spare drivers, that especially if they're coming in from another contract of ours.
Substitute drivers?
Substitute driver, yeah. The only issue is I have to look at the DMV statutes.
Right.
Because I know that previously it was not allowed to have those for plug-in systems specifically. So I'd have to double check that to see if that is an option.
Okay, it's just something that came to mind. We all rely on GPS
Yeah, I agree.
a lot more, but I understand if there's regulations, we're not asking you to go through that. But along those lines, then, so when someone gets particularly a new route or when they're new to a route or they're a substitute, how are they getting their route? Is it paper?
Yeah, it's paper directions for when, if available, I should say, which in the beginning of the school year, we've had many people because we've had the trainees there. We're sending employees with them too, so they're not staring at the paper. They have somebody.
A second person on the bus?
A second person on the bus. It has happened where somebody was on the bus and had a piece of paper and was unfamiliar with the route and driving around neighborhoods. We brought up the cul-de-sacs and they're doing circles around the cul-de-sacs. I don't have an answer for that, of why that would have happened, because that driver was assigned to that route and should have known it. So we're doing what we can to make sure that they have a navigator on the vehicle with them. But yes, they are paper printouts with turn-by-turn directions.
Okay. And what is the protocol when a driver realizes, you mentioned that a child is asleep on the bus, whether it's in the morning or the afternoon, or on the wrong bus? Or do they have enough information? I don't know about the route lists or the name lists.
Yeah.
Do they have phone numbers, addresses, name?
So the steps are, let's start with a child that falls asleep. If a child falls asleep on the bus, the driver is not going to know that until the end of the route. What happens with the driver, on a first tier, which is going to a second tier, so basically high school going to an elementary school, if they finish their afternoon route and drop off all their stops, they're to pull over into a safe spot. They have to walk down the aisle and back and check all the seats and make sure no students are there, and also any trombones or anything else that a student may have left. And if they find a student that has fallen asleep, they immediately radio the base so that we can look up the child, we can contact the school, we can contact the parent, and then we can also contact the school where the bus is going next. That's the protocol for it on a first tier. On a second tier run, which would be an elementary school run, specifically in the in the morning it could happen too, but in the morning it's easy because if you pull over, they pull out of the school parking lot, but on one of the side streets is where they check their bus in the morning. This is for tier 1 and tier 2. So if they notice a sleeping student, they just loop around back in and drop them at school. In the afternoon for a elementary student, they would obviously check their bus, same protocol. If they find a student that's sleeping, same thing. They radio in, they get the child's name so that we can look the child up, we can contact the parent, and then we can contact the school. If they're still there, I mean, I know the schools have been working late, and so usually there's someone there, but we do call the parent in the school to let them know that the child was sleeping and is going back to the bus stop. For a student that got on the wrong bus, usually we don't discover that until the end of the route, and they're sitting there and saying, I don't live in this neighborhood, I'm on the other side of town, or I'm down there, or whatever. Same protocol exists, the driver just has to call in so that we can make the school aware, well, especially if we're going to a second tier, and also the parent aware that they boarded the incorrect vehicle and that we'd be bringing them home.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Lily?
Last but not least. So I know many businesses are experiencing hiring issues or staffing issues. Did you say you were 100% staffed or almost there?
So we're almost there.
Okay.
With the 5 new trainees passing, I believe if 4 of the 5 pass, we're at 100%, but that does not include the spare drivers, which are required in our contract. That's why we would be keeping those drivers that are currently running routes from different offices on as spare drivers so that we were at 100% until the back end of the trainees passed the testing.
And if you can just clarify, just so everybody understands how long it takes someone to train, fingerprinted, background check, DMV appointment.
Yeah.
4 weeks, I mean, it's a while, right?
So a regular driver's license, so if you don't already have a CDL license with, say, a passenger endorsement, but without the S endorsement, which allows you to transport students. The DMV likes to say that they're moving the process along quicker. I think that it's dependent on the individual and how hard they work. So the first step is you have to read chapters and you have to pass tests and you have to get your permit. That's the first step before you can even start training and do your fingerprints, your background check, and get all that paperwork submitted. So if the individual wants to work hard and comes in on a Friday or Thursday or Friday and gets all the information from us and studies over the weekend and makes an appointment with the DMV on Monday or Tuesday and takes their test and pass and gets their permit, we can then get them into training right away. That best case scenario, most likely, is probably 4 weeks. And that's if we can get a test date. DMV, we used to have a standing Thursday test date with the DMV every single Thursday. Because not only do new drivers have to test, but drivers have to do proficiency tests to make sure that they're doing everything correctly, right, to transport students. So our existing drivers have to go through a proficiency test as well. So we had a standing Thursday date with DMV inspector, and we were allowed 4 employees, whether they were new or existing, per Thursday. Unfortunately for us, at the beginning of the summer, they decided that we were going to do every other Thursday. Right when we were getting a push for hiring and training new employees, we were going to every other Thursday, which obviously threw a wrench in our gears and slowed us down tremendously. As of right now, we're still on the every other week. appointment schedule. We're hoping that that changes, since a lot of inspectors are now not doing the inspections on the vehicles, because they have to be inspected every year for safety purposes. So I'm hoping that we can then get back on a weekly schedule, but I'm not positive. So going back to your question, best case scenario, we're looking at about 4 weeks. Worst case scenario is 6 to 8 weeks from start to finish.
So it takes a while.
It does.
Yeah.
Getting it's a V endorsement for a STV vehicle tends to be moving a little bit quicker, but again, it's on the employee to get all the paperwork submitted, pay for their fingerprints, get their background check in. Once they get that paperwork submitted, we have our master trainer that does the classes for them, and then they're just waiting from that notice back from the DMV. That can be as quick as 3 to 4 weeks, start to finish, as long as they get their stuff in right away. But that doesn't help with buses. That's just the minivans.
Thank you for clarifying that. And also, I myself have seen improvement. It's not perfect, but definitely way better than it was. So thank you for that. It's been more consistent. And also, last but not least, I did speak to a lot of the drivers. They all seem to really like you guys. They say you're a great company to work for, and they're looking forward to fixing and resolving the situation with the children. But overall, it was pretty positive that they said they definitely, a lot of them worked for other companies, and it was pretty positive, and they were looking forward to resolving everything with you. So I thought that was nice.
Yeah, that's good to hear. We've gotten positive feedback from a lot of drivers that have come over from other companies, and that's always good to hear. We run the company like a small business, or a small family company. We always will, no matter how big we get or small we get. That's just the mentality that we have, to treat everybody fairly and equally.
Thank you.
So that leaves me.
Well, she said she was last, but now you're jumping in
Sorry.
at the end.
Yeah, well, I mean, I agree with everything everybody said. I don't want to belabor any kind of negativity. I do believe that you can do the job, but you did repeatedly say to us, that you deliver students safely and on time, and you haven't lived up to that. So I guess my question at this point is, what are the next steps?
Well, like I said before, we're looking at a few outliers from each school from our meetings with the principals last week, which we're just trying to kind of tighten up those runs. But from what I'm seeing, and again, we're not perfect, so I'm not talking about every vehicle, but for the most part, most of our vehicles are on time, AM and PM, getting to the schools. If we're running into situations out on the road where students are getting delayed getting home, we can look at that as well. The process is look at getting to the schools on time, and then looking at where the trouble's happening on the runs after they depart the schools. So if we have individuals that are on the bus for too long, we can take a look. We can take a look at that, but we need to get the buses on time before we make any of those additional changes.
Actually, I had a question about on time. So let's take the high school, for example. School starts at 7:32. What is considered on time?
7:20?
I believe 7:20 is the time we've been using.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. And the elementary schools, the goal is 8:20. If we're there before 8:30, or 8:30 or before, we're good. The bell is at 8:40. We don't want to put a kid in a situation where he's getting off the bus and having to run and throw his bag down and then get to class. So we're looking at those runs that are after 8:30 by a couple minutes. Some may be more than a couple minutes, but a couple minutes, and trying to carve that down to the 8:30 mark or before.
So when you create the routes, you use those target times?
Yeah, it's called a drop dead time. So you're creating a route basically back, you're putting all the stops in, and you say, okay, we need to be at this location at 8:30, and it backs up and tells you what time you need to be at each stop prior to that.
And then by policy, kids can be on the bus for an hour, correct? Either way?
I believe that's the Board of Ed.
Board of Ed policy.
So my question, and it might be to Kathy or Dan or to you, when does that hour time start? Is it when the kids are loaded on the bus? Is it when the kids depart the school?
So in the morning, it would be when the first student is picked up, so obviously they would be the longest one on the vehicle. In the afternoons, yes, when the vehicle departs the school. I say that because, and this doesn't happen very often, but if a bus is third in line at a school and the kids are loaded, but the first bus is having behavior issues and a principal or a teacher has to get on the bus and is on there for 5 minutes, yelling at the kids and telling them to behave and sit down, that delays the process, so it's when they push off from the curb of the school is when the clock starts.
Well, thank you for coming here and answering all our questions and apologizing. Like James said, it takes a lot. I know it's not easy, but we certainly appreciate it. And we look forward to, delivering the students safely and on time.
So do I.
Anything else?
Good. Thank you, everybody.
All right, so next item on the agenda, item 6C, is the school opening report.
So you receive this report every year, and I do want to begin by thanking our faculty, staff, and administrators, our students and families. Internally, a very positive start to the school year. As you know, on August 26th, we enjoyed an incredible community-wide ribbon cutting and open house event here. And it has been reported that we had approximately 2,000 people at our ribbon cutting, which is extraordinary and just reflects, how proud our community is of this new building. And then on the 27th, we started school. We welcomed, at that time, 4,080 students. October 1 is our official date. It's the state's official date, so we'll have more information on our October 1 enrollment. We also had 97 preschool students join us, and principals reported smooth openings at each school. We've talked about our transportation challenges, which is part of the school opening story this year. Our theme for Convocation was a year of celebration for Farmington Public Schools. Kim was our keynote speaker and gave you a bit of that presentation. I think our faculty and staff just really appreciated that presentation and really understanding the why behind learning environments that promote students and adults' well-being and outcomes. There are more details about the school opening within that report, but I do want to thank Bill Beckert for representing the Board of Education at our convocation. It's a really symbolic event for our faculty, and his words were inspiring and heartfelt on behalf of the board.
Any questions, comments? Okay. Moving on to item 6D, school facilities summer maintenance and building repairs update.
So Dan Zatoon and Director of Facilities Sam Kilpatrick will provide an overview of our school facility summer maintenance and building repairs that were supported by the 24-25 budget, as well as other revenue sources. As you know, this high school's facility opening took up a great deal of time and effort to ensure a smooth opening to the new school year, and I want to commend all of our custodial and maintenance staff, as well as Sam Kilpatrick and Matt Ross. In addition, I do want to commend our faculty, staff, and administrators throughout the district, and specifically here at FHS for a short timeline when it came to unpacking and preparing to welcome all students back. I can't say enough about our team. You can just see from tonight the different agenda items spoke to the level of work that occurred this summer, and I know the board is so supportive of us, and just really proud of everyone's work this summer. So I'll hand this over to Sam and to Dan.
Thanks.
First of all, I just want to also say thank you to everybody for such a warm welcoming to Farmington. I've been really appreciative of everyone's support and assistance while I kind of, working up to get up to speed. So thank you very much for that. For our report, just, understandably, a lot of the focus this summer has been on the high school. I'm happy to report, though, that there's 6 other buildings. We're able to get a lot of work done this summer. I want to publicly thank Sam and the entire custodial team for their impressive work this summer. I was fortunate to, kind of get to know all the facilities during my first week here. And I was really impressed. Really impressed with the work and having the buildings ready for opening. A couple things I would like to highlight that I was particularly impressed with is just the maximizing of resources and efficiency. 2 steps were taken. First, the high school custodial team, obviously as the new building was being open, was there. So they were dispersed to the other schools to help out at the other schools to kind of help with all the various projects, whether extra cleaning of floors or painting, other projects in there. So I think that was really a great use of resources, and you could really see the extra benefit of that. And then second, Sam and the team were able to work with the school administration to identify furniture and equipment from the old building to redistribute across the schools, obviously mostly at IAR and Westwood just because of size, kind of pieces there. But, based on a conservative estimate, it looks like we were able to save over $100,000 by repurposing that furniture throughout IAR and Westwoods, and probably another $75,000 to the FFE budget for the new Farmington High School. So, once again, I think just really a great sense of leadership on Sam and the district's part of how to make sure we're always maximizing resources in there. So I'll hand over to Sam, who can kind of talk a little bit more in depth and details about some of the projects this summer.
Thank you, Dan. So I'd be glad to answer any questions about any of the particular projects that are listed in the agenda for the facility projects this summer. But if I could also just take a moment to expand a little bit on what Dan was talking about, particularly about what in itself was really a summer project on its own. So this photo here is one of our 2 gyms that were packed similarly at the Farmington High School. So it just kind of gives you an idea of the magnitude of what I was talking about as one of our summer projects here. And with a couple of operations people on the board, you might take a little more interest in this. Here what you'll see is we repurposed approximately 500 pieces of furniture for the new high school. About 200 pieces of equipment. In the next photo, you'll probably see a lot of the equipment there. And also about 2,000 moving boxes were packed in June by our faculty and staff in the high school, which all had to be stored and organized for a later August delivery later in the summer. So it was a big project. On top of that, we had about 1,200 pieces of furniture that we collected from the old high school to distribute to other buildings in the district. So that was a lot. That doesn't include all the technology that Matt and his team went through the high school and collected and redistributed throughout the buildings, or some of the mechanical sensors, or even actually one of the projects that's listed here is we were able to repurpose some mini splits from the weight room at the old high school at Irving Robbins as well. So there was a lot to this, and clearly a project like this takes a team, whether it's Kim working with designers to pick out furniture for the new building, Russ Christ and his team purging, packing, and labeling carefully all the boxes that you see in these photos. Principals throughout the district identifying uses for lightly used FHS furniture, or our custodial teams that throughout the district that received the furniture and placed it in the classrooms. It really, it took a team to make it all go well. I'd just also like to toot our own horn. Tom Beebe was our move manager from Arcadis, who's been in the business for over 40 years. And he told me several occasions that our Farmington team here is the most organized and responsive team that he's worked with. So kudos to us. Only 3 boxes out of everything that you see here were briefly misplaced.
It was a bit of a panic, but.
A little bit of a panic, but we found them. And while I don't want to slight any member of the team that I've been before, I do want to mention one person from our team who is directly responsible for that accomplishment. So last summer, our shift supervisor here at the high school, Chantel Tetro, helped to create our existing furniture inventory, which was photo documenting all the furniture that we thought could be reutilized in the district. This summer, as we left each part of the building, Chantel was there to ensure that each labeled piece of furniture and box, nothing was left behind, that it all made its way to this organization here. She identified quality items that hadn't been labeled that we could possibly use at the new high school or at other buildings. And when a team of 12 movers showed up to the high school, Chantel was there to answer any of their questions. So I just wanted to publicly acknowledge Chantel for going above and beyond throughout this process. I don't think we would have been able to get into this building in as organized a fashion as we did if it wasn't for her work going above and beyond, which in the new building she continues to do. So thank you. The other thing that Dan mentioned that I just want to speak a little bit about is the redeployment of staff throughout the district. As we cleared out of each part of this the old building, there was less staff required to stay at the high school, so we had the opportunity to send some help to the other 6 buildings. Not once did any one of those employees that I asked to go to another building, not once did they complain about where they were going. And not once from the other buildings did I get anything but praise for the people that I sent to those buildings. Sometimes in a department like this, it's tough to build a district team when the focus is always so much on the school and building ownership. But really, the high school building project kind of provided an opportunity for us to put our whole department's talents on display district-wide. The high school cleaners and custodians that were deployed to other buildings, they quickly took ownership of their temporary homes throughout the district. And I want to thank them. I know each building that had them has already thanked them for the work that they put in. I think we were in a better place much earlier on in the summer than we typically are with all those cleanings that are listed in the update that is in the packet. And I want to thank them as well for that. So with that, I don't know if we want to go through project by project, but I know it's been a long night. I'd be glad to answer any questions about any of the projects that are listed.
Does anybody have any questions? Angela?
I just have a general question. When it is just for my edification, like these were supposed to be in the summer, but then we deferred them because of like supplies or something, or this was always like the plan to do it during, I just want to understand the timing of it, or what that means when it says deferred school year.
Yeah, so, I mean, my hope would have been we would have been able to get to as many of those as possible during the summer, but as we planned for our major projects this past year, we deliberately chose projects that we could either make sure we got done this summer or could be done during the school year.
Got it, okay.
So each one that is listed as deferred school year can be done during the school year and will be done by the end of this school year.
Thank you.
Erica?
Just want to comment. One, I love, I think it's wonderful that we were able to recycle, redistribute a lot of the furniture and the equipment. And I mean, line by line, what you mentioned is just, I think it's just wonderful that we were able to do that because that is cost savings to our community, to our residents and so forth. So that's wonderful. Two, great job by all of you. I mean, the pictures alone are so daunting. I can't even imagine what that process was like.
I got to be honest, I'm not even sure that was like at its fullest.
Oh my goodness!
think it was.
Wow.
Yeah.
But just well, thank you to all of you and your staff for all the great work. And then the last thing I would say is my son is benefiting from IER's new fitness fitness something that he just mentioned it the other day, the treadmills or something that they inherited or something. He was so excited about it. So just wanted to say that at least in my household, they were very appreciative of that equipment, so.
Yeah, that was one of the first tasks this summer, was to bring fitness equipment over to IAR, so the summer teams had a place to work out this summer. So we've gone through and identified what's going to stay. There's some items, little surplus items in there that we're going to look for a new home for, but a lot of it's going to stay. So.
Well, he thanks you too, so.
Anybody else?
I would just say, Sam, I mean, I think it's your leadership that has gotten your team to be a district team and not a school team. So I commend you for your thoughtful thinking and planning of where to redistribute folks that weren't being utilized and for the rest of the schools to benefit. So thank you for your thinking through everything else that's going on.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Great job.
I second that.
Thank you. Hit the button, spin the chair.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you.
And just so everyone knows, we have a special day coming up, October 2nd. We celebrate our custodians and cleaners, so you might want to write a note or an email. We're just so fortunate to have Sam leading the department, but just each of our custodians and cleaners. I think I said this earlier, this idea of ownership, they really take great pride in their work, and we appreciate them so much.
Thank you. Next item, 6E, standards-based curriculum work, summer 2024.
Veronica? Yeah. Veronica will provide an overview and answer any questions. Yeah, sure, yeah. I know. Oh, that's true. You could.
I was making room.
Yes, you could.
That's what I would prefer. There's a microphone. But I really I don't want to feel like I'm giving a lecture. Can you go to the next slide, Matt? So, every year I just like to express my appreciation for the time that we have in the summer to complete some of these projects. As you know, sort of during the school year and the day-to-day, it's often very difficult to also do the big thinking that's necessary to keep making progress on our curriculum. And so the summertime is really instrumental. I feel like, it's just a time that people are sort of rejuvenated, can think new and fresh. And I can see one of the participants in one of our sessions over the summer. So I just want to give you've seen sort of this several times, once during the budget time, then you saw it again when I was telling you what projects would be accomplished. And so this is sort of my last chance to sort of say, what was accomplished over the summer. But you already see the list. So just like Sam, I don't want to go through an entire list. I just wanted to provide you with some highlights here. And so really what we're working on is not just a bunch of projects. We're working on how do we get at this deeper learning, all of the core principles that we see in the vision of the global citizen. And how do we integrate that into our curriculum all the time? And so recently we've been thinking about this in these three buckets in order to sort of make something very complex feel very simple. So one is this everyday pedagogy. How are we teaching on a day-to-day basis that allows students to really think about what they're learning about deeply? And so one of the things that I want to highlight here is an Instructional Practices Institute. So it was a secondary institute, and I, along with Jessica Tolles and Megan Jones, ran the institute, and we had over 50 teachers who participated in that, and students. So I really wanted to highlight that we had students come. So we were really working on instructional practices, what is brain-based learning, and coming up with sort of teachers were teaching each other some of these methods of teaching that really spark interest and spark students' brains, and doing sort of lesson makeovers. And we had students come and watch and offer feedback. And it was just wonderful, and I kept thanking the students for coming because it was the summer. And students came happily, and I just kept thanking them. And then one of the students, as they were leaving said, you keep thanking us, but I just want to thank all of these teachers who are here in the summer and still thinking about, us and what we need and trying to make it better so that we have a better experience. And the students said, I just want to be involved in more of these kinds of experiences. And I just thought that was just such a testament to our teachers who are willing in the summer to come, continue to shape their practice, their craft in order to keep, providing the very best experiences for students. So I just wanted to share that anecdote because I don't think you often know sort of the power of sort of starting from a budget and then what it means to the district, when you see it all the way through to, that's what happens in the summer. So very exciting. I also wanted to point out that we did some work on deeper learning experiences. So you'll see a lot this year, some of our, IAR attempts at, and there'll be pilot attempts, but attempts at sort of a capstone Aspire Light. We don't want students we want students sort of along the way, always experiencing what it's like to do bigger projects where you're making a contribution. So you'll hear more about that throughout the year. We did some exciting social studies unit revisions. This is an election year, as you know. So for example, in 6th grade, we're revamping a unit. Our registrar of voters know all about it, but sort of partnering with the registrar to do how you get the stickers when you leave after voting? So our students will learn about voting, but also then create the stickers that people will leave with after they've voted. So those kinds of things that when we talk about sort of deeper learning experiences, things where you have an impact, that's what we're working on. That's what we have the time to concentrate on when we have the time in the summer to work on that. And then, of course, always our systems and structures. For example, Crew Hawks Nest advisories. A big thank you to all the teachers who work on that, because when those are worked on in the summer, the year can go really smoothly, and we can really attend to some of those SEL kinds of competencies through those structures. Big work in that. I also wanted to just point out that we're also working a lot, not only over the summer, but throughout the year on elementary school reading. As you know, there's been a push from the state on the science of reading, and we've elected to really use a lot of expeditionary learning, which is, and Imagine Learning is the sort of title of the materials for teachers. But I kind of wanted to a little bit just show how that plays out in these 3 buckets. So one example is Sun, Moon, and Stars, which is a 1st grade unit. We are allowed to supplement. So even though we're adopting the expeditionary learning, because that's the will of the state to do that, but we have some flexibility in terms of really supplementing with the things that we know are good for students. And so really a lot of work has gone into what's that deeper learning experience going to look like? What are students in the end going to present? And it's going to be a great celebration of learning that's going to look somewhat like a science museum that our 1st graders are presenting to their families. So families will come and there'll be different stations. So that's part of the deeper learning experiences. The everyday pedagogy is what are the routines that get students there. And then the system and structure then is having that structure where we have real audiences for the work and a real purpose for what the students are doing. So again, I just want to thank all the teachers. It's over 35 projects that we do in the summer like this, and over 100 teachers. So actually it was more like 150 teachers that are involved in projects over the summer to one level or another. So just a great way for us to keep improving our practice in a way where we're not also running off to class 5 minutes later or something, just the time to think. And I know that a lot of teachers said they felt rejuvenated and refreshed after these sessions. So again, to thank the board for always supporting these projects, and it's just really valuable time that really lets the innovation keep going. So thank you to all of you, and then to the teachers as well who do these projects in the summer.
Any questions or comments? Angela?
I just, as I was reading through it and you said FHS Hawks Nest, I honestly didn't know what that was till someone like brought it up to me recently, and then when I saw it here, I was like, okay, that still exists. Someone said that they're not doing Hawk's Nest anymore, but now I saw it here, so it is still happening. Is that
The kinds of lessons that they're doing, so I think there is sort of restructured, but there still is. It's not the same amount of time, so the structure has been a little bit,
Okay.
but there still are Hawk's Nest lessons
Okay.
built into the school year.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else? Yep. Thank you, Veronica. All right, next item, 6F, summer schools programs report.
Brian has been anxiously awaiting this agenda item.
As well. I've been sitting down, so I got to stretch a little bit. Brian Zero, Director of the Extended Care and Learning Program. Tonight, I am Brian Zero, the Summer Learning Coordinator. So my job in the summer, and not really summer, usually we start around January, and I meet with this great team right here of summer managers. So my role is to work with this great group, work out logistics, find spaces for classrooms, pick sites, coordinate with Sam and Matt on summer projects. So this year we were in 4 schools. The majority of programming was at Westwoods, and for the month of July, that building was completely packed. Every single classroom, every single closet, everything. Gym split 4 ways. We had a really great summer there. We also had our preschool programs, special education and preschool Excel camp at Noah Wallace. We had a very small group of special service students at Union School to utilize the community for small field trips. And then IR had some of the enrichment theater camp and other enrichment programs. So this summer we saw pre-K to 12 grade students. So it was a really big group of people, great summer. Some of the names up here, if you want to just take a look. The program, the report has every single little detail about numbers, student numbers, teachers. But this group right here, I really wanted to just highlight because they do so much work from, really up until 2 weeks ago when they put together their portion of the report. But really, they work together to plan for the summer from January to the first week in September. And then I have to talk about Anjay and Soma. Human Resources and HR really put together a small startup business for the month of July. That's really what it is. They work to bring on probably 50 to 60 new employees for the summertime to facilitate a special service program. So without those two, it wouldn't be possible. And then, definitely a special thanks to the custodian teams at IR, Noah Wallace, Union School, and especially Westwood School. I would love to answer any questions anyone has about the report in a whole.
Anybody?
And I believe I was closer I was right after the public announcements last year. I don't know what happened. I would like to put that to the board for consideration.
We'll move you up higher.
You have to watch every move this year. And then that's how we just, no, I just, just to say thank you so much to Brian and everyone involved. It really is an impressive and exciting summer every year. Just as a reminder to the board, we will have a roofing project at Westwoods, which will take Westwoods offline. So Brian is going to now reimagine where a lot of the programs will be in the coming year, but we do have this beautiful facility now, so lots of other options, right?
I was just going to say, I hear it throughout the community that our summer program is just outstanding. And also just the services that are provided for, all levels It's awesome. So keep doing it, Brian.
Yeah, there's really something for everybody.
Yeah.
From
It
strings
really
camp
is.
to education to childcare camps and specialty camps.
Yeah, yep. No, that's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Next is 6G, September 2024 Professional Staffing Report, Professional Appointments, Resignations, Retirements, and Professional Development Activities.
So Kim will provide a more extensive overview of professional staffing report, which always occurs in our first meeting of each year.
Right, thank you, Kathy. So this staffing report gives you an overview of our recruitment, hiring, and orientation processes, as well as the professional learning that happened over the summer, really just prior to the start of school year. I know that you also received a more detailed list of all of the programs that happened in those late August days at each school. But generally, this report shows you that we have onboarded and welcomed 39 new faculty members. Those educators range in experience from beginning teachers to very experienced educators. They joined us for new teacher orientation for 2 full days of getting to know us and who we are and helping them to feel very welcomed and supported. Kathy always kicks us off with a like very fast but thorough overview of all of the things that we want them to come to know over time, but it can feel a little overwhelming at the moment. I always see like, do I have to memorize all of this? But it's a wonderful couple of days, and we make it very interactive and supportive. We always welcome a teacher who was sitting kind of in their seat the year before. So this year, a social studies teacher from IAR, Jeffrey Yep, was one of our advice givers to the beginning new cohort of teachers, and our wonderful Teacher of the Year, outgoing Teacher of the Year, Nancy Nelson, welcomed them. Natalie Simpson, our Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Coordinator, gave an overview of our commitment to equity goals and how that might play out in their classrooms and in the work they might want to do themselves as professionals. And then in the rest of the report, you see greater detail about some of the other summer programming and August days. So I'm happy to answer any questions you have about any of that.
No, but I just want to comment on, and I feel like it's positive stuff, but sorry, I just have positive information. But just to clear, Mr. Yap was first year last year, right? You knew he's my son again, IAR student.
Yeah.
Absolutely loves him, and I got to meet him and got to talk to him, and I was just I trust that that's all of our teachers, but he came to the last year with just bringing creativity, and the way in which he engaged the students, the way he engaged my son who experiences, difficulties in transition was just, and to this day, my son says, read the room, Levi, read the room, because that's what, and it was just such a nice way for him to remember, like, okay, we're doing this now, so it's his strategies, his approach, I just have to say that publicly because he was just an amazing teacher for him, so. Good job.
Thank you for that. We see that same gift in him, and that's why we invited him to come. And he was just had that right blend of high expectations, but a lot of care for beginning teachers, and told them all, just reach out, look to your colleagues. We're all here to help. So, great.
I have a question. Because a lot of times people in the community will ask, and so can you just comment on the resignations over the summer? Is that typical that you see that amount of resignation, or what are the typical reasons that people are leaving over the summer?
Sure.
it is and isn't typical. It's hard to describe the shift we've seen sort of post-COVID in terms of retention of faculty and staff. We hired 39 new teachers. 9 of them were hired because we had 9 retirements, and some new hires are here to do a long-term sub position for teachers who are out on a child rearing leave for the year. Some people over the summer moved into advanced leadership roles in other districts, and we are, happy for them in the sense that we feel very connected in the developing our professionals' careers and hoping that they'll, meet their own goals. And when we can keep them, we want to, but there are going to be times when someone is looking for advancement and they find it in another district. We keep a close eye on these kinds of turnover, and we talk to people when they communicate to us that they've made a choice to leave. I think it's an opportunity to kind of reflect on whether these leaves are for things like advancing in your career, or a spouse is moving to another job and so the family is moving out of state. We did have a couple of resignations where people had decided to leave the profession, and that's kind of a sign of the times, which is troubling to us. And then, you get down to a small number of people who've elected to just leave Farmington and work in another district. And at times I think this is sort of a phenomenon of post-COVID. People want to be closer to home. They don't want to drive 45 minutes to come to work every day. That has become, I think, increasingly important to people. So we do have people who will say, I had an opportunity to teach in my hometown. I loved working here, but this is just an opportunity I can't pass up. And so, are we different? I don't think we're different from other districts. I hear that from my colleagues in other districts, that turnover is increasing. And so, as I said, it causes us to be reflective and think about our retention efforts and strengthening opportunities for leadership so that people feel like they can stay here and still grow in their careers. But it's a good and thoughtful question. I appreciate you asking it, and we ask it of ourselves.
Thank you. Angela?
Just to follow up on that, I know we talked about it last year at a board meeting. Was it like a state mandate or something to have an exit interview, I thought? Or weren't we establishing some type of exit interview plan? Has that been implemented for everyone, or what is the timeline of that?
The state mandated that we collect exit data, not that we have an exit interview.
Okay.
So we are doing that. We collect exit data and we report that data to the state. We've done, as I said, for the most part, I bet almost to every single person, somebody knows why the person is leaving. Educators talk with their principals, or they might call me, or they might call Veronica if they know her and have a relationship. So for the most part, although it's not a formalized exit interview, we do feel like we know our teachers and we know when they make a decision what's at the heart of that decision. We are always open to having exit interviews, and I've had many exit interviews with people who request that, who would just like to either share, some things that really were so, what they loved about being here, and sometimes people who will share some concerns, but very few and far between, fortunately. But we are not mandated to have exit interviews.
So when you're saying exit data, that could be collected via the methods you just said, like the principal knows where they went, or
We actually give the exiting teachers a survey to fill out, and
Okay.
they sort of check.
so they do fill it out, but
They
there
fill
might
it
not
out.
just be like an actual like interview, to your point.
Correct.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, so that brings us to 6H, deeper learning updates.
So you heard a little bit about deeper learning earlier. We have many exciting updates to share with you. It's just the start of the school year, but you'll see, that we experienced a very smooth opening and transition back when it comes to teaching, learning, and deeper learning through these updates. Okay. Next item is 7, unfinished business, 7A, budget impact, budget update.
Thanks, everybody. As we, all know, the 24-25 school year budget has just begun. So at this time, it's really too early to determine any trends or any significant changes. One thing I would like to just kind of point out to emphasize is that this is the first budget now where we fully used up all of our ESSER money. So those funds are no longer in our budget moving forward. Fortunately, as a district, we didn't rely on those funds for too many recurring expenses like staffing. They don't have to be now rolled over and carried in your traditional operating budget or having to find other grants to support that. So that'll be very beneficial. But then finally, special services line items, always something that we have to monitor very closely as we experience new students to the district, as well as current students who are experiencing increased special services needs. So that's always an area that we'll kind of watch closely. So that's kind of where we are this early in the year, but happy to address any questions anyone may have.
Angela?
I know I mentioned this a little bit when specialty was here. I'm not even sure. I'm having a hard time finding where we are in the agenda, so I apologize. Are we looking into our specialty contract for recouping some of the things within the contract that we're not meeting on? Is that something that we are looking into?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's part of the invoice review. So we know the contract well, and we have a very strong contract when it comes to management.
Yeah.
And so, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll hear more of that, I'm assuming. I saw in the contract the first billable month is October, we're going to be billing them for October.
Well, we had received our summer billing for summer school.
Gotcha.
I don't believe we've received an invoice yet.
Yeah, no, we haven't gotten our,
For the school year.
For the
It's
school year
summer.
invoice, yeah.
Okay. So more to come on that, I guess. Once you guys are reviewing that, we'll have an update on that. I'm assuming.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yes.
I mean, we've been focusing, obviously, looking at the contract very closely. Right now, obviously, our emphasis is on safe, reliable transportation, working out the pieces there, but at the same time, keeping an eye on, that financial piece.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, so next item on the agenda, item 8, new business. A, policy updates for first reading.
So I was asked for a red line version of both of these policies. They're almost a full rewrite, so we did contact Shipman and Goodwin for it, so I was able to get that. But it's almost a full rewrite. So the U.S. Department of Education recently issued the 2024 Title IX final rule on sex discrimination, including sex-based harassment, which is the final rule, which became effective August 1st, 2024. The final rule redefines sex-based harassment and broadens the scope of sex discrimination to include sex stereotyping, sex characteristics, pregnancy or related conditions, sexual orientation, and gender identity. So those changes are included in 4118.1 policy and regulations 4118.1A for personnel and policy 5145.5 and regulations 5145.5A for students. This all has been put in effect on August 1st, and we don't meet during the summer. So if you look on our website, we do have these policies up on our website, and it says, the board is currently reviewing them because we want them available to our families and our faculty to know that this is what we're following right now. It just hasn't been approved in a first and second reading by all of you. So that was a way of getting it up on our website and ensuring we're following it. It's just logistically, we don't do a first and second reading until September and October. But you can see the policies and regulations were included in your packet, and we just, at the end of the day, received the red line version so that you could see all the changes, which are comprehensive changes.
This is just the 4,000, not the 5,000.
There's another
For
part
the
of
5,000 is here, sorry.
Oh, okay,
But you
sorry.
should have two.
Okay.
You should have two.
Does she need? Because I don't.
Did you? Oh.
Did you get it, Andrea? Because we have extra here too.
No, I have the 4 and the 5 now.
Okay. Thing. So I was like, am I missing something? So of course I started Googling too, just to kind of understand like the background and kind of things going on around this. Is this the same thing? My understanding, again, this is me just Googling and trying to understand, so I don't know. Is this the same thing? There was a new federal regulation was placed, a lawsuit was filed, and the federal courts placed an injunction on the matter, and then recently in August, like a month ago, they withheld the injunction, and it's kind of in like a holding pattern. Is what we're talking about here the same related to that federal injunction?
It is, but that injunction does not include the Farmington schools. So or most schools in Connecticut. And so we are not part of that. And we go forward with this.
So I guess then, because again, I was just researching this,
Yeah.
and again, follow-up question. The Connecticut regulations, the last that I saw that had major changes were in 2021 and 2022. And I thought these policies were last revised in 2022. So I assumed, again, that was to be in compliance with those Connecticut state regulations. So if we're in compliance with the state regulations and there's an injunction on the federal ones, would it be prudent to wait till the injunction we have further clarification on that injunction? Because are we not in compliance with something now, I guess, based on this injunction and the state?
No, with this policy, we would be in compliance. There is, if you go on the state of Connecticut's website, and I think I actually provided this to the board as well, there is a link you can go to, and you can see places where what you're saying is the case, but that's not the case for us. So we go forward and we comply with the federal requirements. That is, we are represented by Shipman and Goodwin very clearly. We go forward with this policy, and this is for your review as a first reading.
So even with the injunction,
Because it does not include Farmington, and it doesn't include most districts in Connecticut.
okay, I would personally, just to let everyone know, I would just need more time to review everything.
Sure.
To understand it better, like looking at these red lines and things, but if I have further questions, I'll obviously get them
Absolutely.
to you as soon as I kind of make sense of all of this now,
Yes.
that information.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So I need a motion to approve the policies 4118.1 and 4118.1A and 5145.5 and 5141.5A for a first reading. Do I have to read what they are on the bottom? Okay. 4118.1 and 4118.1A, prohibition of sex discrimination, including sex-based harassment personnel. 5145.5 and 5145.5A, prohibition of sex discrimination, including sex-based harassment students.
Motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Abstentions? Okay, so that's 8, 4, 1 nay. Next on the,
Seven, Andrea, because Bill's not here.
oh, that's right, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
I was like,
Thank
wait,
you.
that's
Assume we're going for
So
9.
it's seven yay, 1 nay.
Right.
Next item on the agenda, item 8B, approval of educator administrators evaluation and professional development plan.
Kim will provide an overview of our new EEPD plans for both educators and administrators. It's aligned to state-level requirements, and those are new, and in collaboration with our EEPD committee made up of educators and administrators as well as paraprofessional representative. So Kim?
Thank you. So we've been talking about this for more than a year, that this has been in process, and as Kathy said, in both cases, both FEA and the administrator bargaining unit had representatives and input on the development of each of these plans. The biggest change, I would say, was the elimination of a rating system that has been in place for a number of years. And that there's a greater emphasis on self-directed professional growth and dialogue about practice. I also would add that Farmington's old plans were used as kind of models for the new plans across the state because we've always placed a great emphasis on professional growth and dialogue, and so we're happy to see that and also pleased to refresh and revise the plans with input from teachers and administrators. So on the next slide, you can see that the core design principles that underlie both plans are foundational beliefs about how we work together. And it's really, again, I would say, an example of the Farmington and mindset. So it doesn't say this on the slides, but we're talking about trust and accountability. There needs to be some accountability, but in the spirit of trust. Feedback and self-reflection. Clear district goals and personalized performance goals, so that people feel that they're meaningfully involved in the process. So I know you had the opportunity to look at both of these plans fully. So I just will highlight a couple features of the plans. On the next slide, I think you see the 3 phases that administrators or teachers can be in. So, you're either starting in an induction development phase if you're a beginning administrator or a beginning teacher, or new to the Farmington Public Schools, and then you, after a period of time, move into a refinement empowerment phase. And at some point, you may need to be in an intensive support phase based on professional learning needs. On the next slide, you can see that everyone develops at least 1 or 2 professional growth goals. They're aligned with the process that we use to move teachers from their initial certification to their provisional certification. So teachers who complete those team modules, we don't double up on requirements for them. They overlap nicely. And then on the next slide, you see that everyone is working collaboratively. So there is that spirit of collaborative inquiry in the educator plan where teachers work in teams on something that they're interested in and excited about that's related to the vision of the global citizen and the school development plan, but gives them some autonomy and ownership for the focus of their collaborative inquiry. And then, as you always see, administrators work on their goals are directly related to the school development or the program development plans in those 3 buckets. The The next slide shows you that it continues to be anchored by 3 important dates over the course of the year: a goal-setting meeting in the fall, a mid-year check-in, how are things going, how can I support you, and then an end-of-year summary of what's been accomplished and celebrating student outcomes. Fundamentally, on the next slide, this really is about continuous improvement and an emphasis on real dialogue about practice. You know, Kathy is out in schools helping principals be reflective about what's happening in their schools. Principals, in turn, are in teacher classrooms, providing feedback and having those conversations with teachers about what they see and what teachers can be doing to reach all students. So really, it's just a cycle that continues throughout the year where we're constantly trying to improve our practice, work with each other, support each other, and take a look at data to see what the impact is on those efforts when it comes to student learning. And the last slide, I think, is just, oh, I'm sorry, one more slide about how we include families in this process, which I think is rather unique. It's an expectation, certainly of our administrators, as you know, but even teachers and teacher teams, finding ways to solicit feedback from families through surveys or focus groups or general phone calls and conversations. How's it going for your child? What can we be doing to improve the learning experience? So we're always wanting to communicate to families that they are our partners in their children's education and that we can be more responsive to those needs if we are partnering and learning from family members how we can better serve children. And then the last slide is just about continuous improvement and the fact that really we say it and we live it and we mean it. We are a learning organization, students and adults, and so I think these 2 plans really reflect that commitment.
Before I open it up to questions or comments, can I have a motion to extend the meeting past 10 p.m.?
Motion?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay. We move past 10 p.m. Any questions, comments for Kim?
I got a
Marty?
comment. I think it's a huge improvement, and I know there's a lot of work involved in there over what has been used in the past. So, teachers should be happy about it.
Okay. All right, so next, well, actually, we need a motion. Yeah. I need a motion to approve the educator evaluation and professional development plan and the administrator evaluation and leadership development plan as presented.
Motion?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda, item C, discussion of central office administrator appointment. So I will need a motion to move into executive session at 9:59 p.m.
Motion?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, we're in executive session. All right, so I need a motion to return to public session at 10:50 p.m. Motion? Second? All those in favor? Aye. Nay? Abstentions? Motion carries. All right, so next item is item 8D, approval of approval of central office administrator appointment. I need a motion to appoint Veronica Rusek to the central office position of Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum and Instruction, effective January 1st, 2025.
Motion.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Nay? Abstentions? Motion carries. Congratulations, Veronica.
Congratulations.
So we're- Yeah, if you like.
Well, I'm just thrilled that Veronica will be our next Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum and Instruction. Veronica is a longtime Farmington educator and leader, and she has helped us to be the district we are today, and I am so excited to see the future. With Veronica as Assistant Superintendent, she will have some time with Kim for the next few months transitioning, and I know that there'll be so many Farmington educators and staff who are going to be thrilled tomorrow when we send out this notice. It's wonderful news, and we're just all so happy for Veronica, but also for us. So, thrilled.
Congratulations. I think on behalf of the Board of Ed, we're very excited for you. You have longevity with Farmington School District, both as a student, as a teacher, dean of students, assistant principal, director of curriculum, and now assistant superintendent of curriculum and instruction. I just look forward to, I think we all do, we look forward to working with you and seeing you succeed in your new position. Congratulations.
Looking forward to working with all of you a lot closer and things like this. It's very exciting to think that we can continue, what we started here. And we've done for a really long time.
Next item is item 11, report of the board chair. Oh, I skipped something, sorry. Okay. Next item is item 9, consideration of Assistant Superintendent of Finance and Operations report, A, approval of May 2024 financial statement report.
Thanks. So Scott has left me with quite the challenge because for the end of year, for May and June, really the closeout of the 23-24, Farmington ended with a surplus of $2,697. Just to kind of view it another way, that is 99.9965% of the $75 million budget. So that's pretty impressive. It's really impressive. I would be remiss if I didn't publicly thank Beth Haber, our business manager, for her tireless work, on that budget. As you may be aware, there's always some variances across budget line items to lead this final number. Simply put, some accounts finish higher than projected, while other accounts finish lower. And this is simply a product of running, it's a dynamic organization with 4,200 students, 500 staff members, and ever-changing conditions that are impossible to control. Just to kind of highlight some of the areas that ended higher than expected, and that was in salaries, both teachers and aides, and employee health insurance. And once again, for a variety of reasons, including but not limited, teacher turnovers, leaves, movements from salaries to some grants. There is a relationship with salaries and other lines that are overextended, like substitute line, professional education services, and other professional services. For example, when qualified substitutes or services are contracted out due to absences or need most frequently in special services. Major drivers that costs were higher than budgeted were in the services category, especially those connected with student services, tuition, transportation, and this shortfall is consistent with neighboring towns due to many reasons, including but not limited to students entering the school district requiring special services that weren't accounted for at the time, and then current students who are requiring additional special services. Custodial supplies also were overextended, which was discussed in last year's budget development process for the 24-25 school year. New supplies not required in the past, now required, especially since COVID. Happy to talk any specific questions you may have.
Any questions?
I will do all my reports at 10:56 p.m. This way, there's probably less questions.
Nicely
All
done.
right. So I need a motion to approve the May 2024 financial statement report as
Motion?
presented, sorry.
Motion?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Next item B is approval of the June 2024 end-of-year financial statement report. I know you, yeah, you did. I did want to actually make a comment about
Sure.
that, the remaining balance. I know Bill usually always mentions this, so he's not here, I'm going to mention it. The remaining 2,000 and change that goes back to the town, to the general
Correct.
fund.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I need a motion to approve the June 2024 end-of-year financial statement report as presented.
Motion?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Okay. Report of, number 11, report of board chair. So Bill's not here tonight. He extends his apologies, but he had a health issue that he needed to deal with, and I know we all wish him a speedy recovery. To be honest, I didn't have anything prepared because I was only told a couple hours before that I was going to be sitting in his spot. But I do want to just welcome everybody back. I want to welcome back all the administrators and the teachers, staff, students, and families. I'm excited about the new year and all the potential for learning, innovation. And just also, I look forward to a collaborative relationship with all of you, and that will have a successful 24-25 year, always keeping students at the center of our decision-making. So that's it for my report. So next item on the agenda is item 12, report of committee reports. A is personnel negotiations. I don't have anything to report at this time. B, policy.
Policy meets next. There's a hold on our calendar for those on the committee, if you haven't seen it yet, that Dee just put out for October 1st. And so will we have more discussion of the policy changes that we talked about tonight, or the updates? I mean, those are already in effect, and we're just doing.
Model policies will be presented to the policy committee and then to the board.
Okay. So that's October 1st, at least tentatively.
Okay, and then curriculum, we have a meeting scheduled for October 21st. Communications?
Communications, the latest newsletter went out at the end of the summer. So look back on the previous school year. And then the committee usually meets in November, thereabouts, for the winter newsletter, to start working on that.
Okay. Item 13, report of committee liaisons. Correct liaison Bill is not here. Extended Learning Opportunities Committee, Sylvie?
Nothing at this time.
Okay. Superintendent's Interscholastic Athletic Advisory Committee, I don't have anything to report. Farmington Public School Foundation?
Yeah, we had, the foundation had a meet and greet for new prospective board members and volunteers on Thursday, the 12th. A pretty good turnout. That Tony Shockley gave some comments, and also Megan Guerrero was also there, a previous chair of the foundation, to kind of reinvigorate some of the things that made the foundation so successful, back a few years. Under new leadership, 2 new chair people, Kelly Spring and Carla Simeone, and they've got some really good ideas. And their first board meeting is on the 9th at the Farmington Library. Planning to set a date for the Trivia Bee in the winter for the next Trivia Bee. But call out to everybody here if there's anybody that you guys know that would like to volunteer, anybody that wants to get involved but doesn't have a ton of time. This is not a heavy lift, but a worthwhile venture to get involved in. It's a fantastic foundation, and I think they're really going to do some really great things again. So.
Thank you. Health and Wellness, Angela?
We have our first meeting on October 7th, so we'll have more to report next time.
Okay. Cafeteria?
I do not have an update. I haven't seen a meeting yet scheduled for, so it might be coming up.
Okay. Town Board of Ed Green Efforts Committee?
We had a meeting on September 3rd, and one of the things we were talking about is the composting program at Westwoods, and possibly having them pair up with the high school and do a presentation for the board and possibly the public to get them involved. And our next meeting is the October 1st or 2nd, something like that. Don't have it written out. But we're going to be talking about pumpkin composting as well, because Halloween's coming up. So that's all.
Thank you. Community Council for Equity and Inclusion?
Nothing to report yet.
Okay. FHS Building Committee?
I don't know, aren't we glad we're here? But Russ actually I reached out to the assistant town manager we haven't met since before the building opened, so just to get any updates. But Russ covered it. I mean, the Black Box Theater's finished and youth. Auditorium, they're hoping for next week. And then the punch list items. And I don't think you mentioned this specifically, but Kat did say that they've added on a second shift so that they're able to get those punch list items done the students are pretty much not here and they're working around other, after school activities and things, but they've done that to get things moving, keep things moving. And then October 26th, if you want to put that in your calendars, save the date. That's going to be the fall community open house that we talked about doing kind of as a follow-up to the ribbon cutting for people who couldn't make it, but also to have a more extensive tour and open it up to the committee, or to the community. So more to come on that as far as exact times.
So more space will be open to see versus
Yes.
just the more limited?
Right, it was very
beginning of school?
restricted being the night before
Right.
school was starting.
Awesome.
And while it's still going to need to be somewhat controlled, but you'll have more of a view overall, bigger view of the facility. Yep.
And Noah Wallace Fund, there's nothing to report. So last item is adjournment. Can I have a motion to adjourn at 11:04 p.m.?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.